Test, 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 test. Hello, hello. I see an issue with the window. 1 second. Let me fix that. There we go. Okay. Okay, I got the wiki up here. Got a couple of scans, Databook stuff. Looks good. Get started in just a second. Check levels. Okay. How's everybody doing tonight? Hope you all have had an excellent weekend. Thank you again for a super fun Claire Obscure stream on Thursday. That was an amazing time. I really enjoyed going through all that stuff with y'all. Game continues to be genuinely excellent, and I'm like always torn because I want to keep playing on my own, but I also don't want to like spoil anything, and I like to build up the anticipation over the course of the week, so it's pretty fun. Hey, how's it going, Ryomin? How are you doing? Hope you're having a good time. Hey, Saria, how are you doing? I'm loving the constant grind. Let me see. Horse speed. I actually found some real horse scaling in Naruto. Let me see if I can pull it up. I was going to throw that in as a little bonus. But I'm surprised that Sage didn't use this in his video. I guess because it's in a movie and thus not considered fully canon. But Naruto movie, was it the no, it wasn't the blood one, it was Land of Snow, I think. Let me see. Yeah, so I just watched this earlier today. Like, I finished watching it earlier today. I started it before, and early on in this movie, one of the first things that happens, and I wish I had known about this a couple of weeks ago when we were doing our geography discussion, lady on a horse rides right through. But more than that, for our purposes, I better not play the audio to get copywritten, but there's a whole bunch of horses that ride through, ladies on a horse, but then Naruto manages to outpace her by jumping over these rooftops and going back and forth like this, and manages to get in front of her. Sasuke and Naruto are also running behind them and manage to get up with them, catch up with them, and outpace them and save her, quote unquote save her, gets more complicated than that, from the opposing ninja. So yeah, even Kid Naruto can run faster than a horse, but, you know, and then this continues. But there's actually a really cool feat for Kakashi as well. Naruto and Sakura managed to... Oh, by the way, I don't know if I actually said it out loud, but this is from Naruto the movie Ninja Clash in the Land of Snow, which is available for free on YouTube.com. YouTube.com for Naruto movies and other shit. You can see that Naruto and Sasuke and Sakura managed to capture these guys and tie them up. And then watch what Kakashi does over here. This is at the 7-minute and 31 second time mark. Body flicker, shoom, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, like in a single like moment, he body flickers. He manages to move between all of these different characters and slice their bonds and free them all at once. So I don't know if that's light speed, but it is pretty impressive. If you're looking for a cool feat for Kakashi to rely on, that's one of them. And then there's this, where I forget her name, but this actress is running, and Naruto runs alongside with the horse. She's clearly trying to speed away. Naruto picks up speed, goes faster and faster, and then manages to hop onto the back of the horse. So yes, even Kid Naruto can outpace the galloping speed of a horse. I'm forced to concede this point. And then later on, I don't want to spend too much time on this movie. I want to get into the light speed stuff, but there is a moment where they go to the Land of Snow, and in the Land of Snow, it's revealed that previously there were train tracks that covered the land, and the villains there essentially like use chakra to the train tracks are like buried under the snow, and the villains use chakra to heat up the rails so that they can like ambush them with this like moving like armored you know, like weaponized train thing. And then when it shows up, Naruto and the actress are stuck in the tunnel together, and the train comes barreling at them, and Naruto manages to outpace the train. It comes really close to smashing him, so it's, you know, arguably a little bit faster than he is, but still, you know, he's able to go faster than the train, or like to go fast enough to like just barely outspeed it and get out of the way and save the two of them. So I don't know if you think this train is going like 60 miles an hour or something like that, maybe faster. Kid Naruto is running, as fast as a car, something like that, right in that ballpark. Oh, you've already seen you've already seen the scene, yeah. This movie, I'm not gonna spoil anything else, but like after the last and after what was it? Oh, and then also this makes sense that like that Amado and Ada would have been coming from the land of snow on a train, right? Because it's already established that this place has like a train network, so it kind of fits in. Um, but that being said, um, I think this movie is really good, and I also really enjoyed. I saw Blood Prison as well, because I think somebody in chat last time recommended Blood Prison, or I think I got confused. I think they recommended like Child of the Cursed Blood, or like a novel with something like that in the title, but I misunderstood and I watched the Cursed Blood movie, or the Prison of Blood movie, and that was really good too. And I'm like, wait, what the hell? I had been really soured on the movies after the last was okay. I guess I would give it like a 7 out of 10. Road to Ninja I really didn't like. I would probably give that a 6 out of 10, just personally. And so I kind of was expecting, I was kind of avoiding the other movies because I thought that they would all be of a similar caliber. But no, like these were really good. I really enjoyed them. Probably both of them were 8 out of 10, in my opinion. But anyway, let me let me just catch up real quick. Said if Haku lived to adulthood, he would have been nuts. Oh yeah, absolutely. I was kind of toying with this the other day. Like this is headcanon. I don't think I can like win a debate about this, but I kind of feel like the relationship between Kimimaro and Orochimaru is similar to the relationship between whatchamacallit, between Haku and Zabuza. And so if the if either of those two characters lived to experience their full potential, they would have been monsters. I mean, you could debate this, right? I don't think, like I said, I don't think I could use this in a debate. Oh wait, shit. I'm sorry. I just realized that I'm looking at my capture over here and I'm seeing it's a black screen, so OBS is not actually capturing the YouTube thing again. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I'm sorry. I wish I could have shown you those scenes. You can kind of see it in the preview. That's really weird. It's showing you the preview, but it's not showing you the full footage. But yeah, you can see the horses there, and then you can see the train thing over here. So please go check out the video on YouTube if you're interested in seeing the scenes that I'm talking about. I think I know why it's not showing up, but I don't want to like totally restart everything. So sorry about that. I wish I could have shown you the actual clips. But anyway, Ryoman says, I told you about the wrong movie. Oh yeah, no, it's not a problem at all because I really enjoyed those movies. So, I think I'm glad that you told me about them, and now I want to go see the other ones as well because I'm curious about what else is out there. So you've motivated me to experience more of the world. So I can't be mad about that. And I'm gonna read the book at some point as well. I want to. At this point, I've decided I just want to make my way through all of the supplemental materials. I don't think I'm going to wind up watching the whole anime. I just don't have time for that. But there's only like 4 or 5 more movies, I think. Right? There's Bonds. There's a couple when he's a kid. I think yeah, there's like 3 or 4 more movies actually. I think I can commit to that. And then as for the novels, I bought a few of them. So the next one I got to do is Naruto Retsuden, like the last one in the Retsuden trilogy. And then I started the Shikamaru, I forget if it's Shinden or Hiden or whatever, but I started his book as well. So I might as well just like make my way through the series eventually. But yeah. What I was gonna say is that, Orochimaru seemed pretty intent on the idea that if he had Kimimaro at like full health or whatever, that he would have easily been able to take over the village of Konoha. Now, the edgy scaling I was leaning towards is like, well, he had Gaara and things didn't work out, so maybe he's implying that Kimimaro is, well, actually, I guess that's not edgy at all, because like Kimimaro seemed to be able to handle Gaara right after Lee, right after Naruto. So saying that he's like above Gaara also doesn't, like he almost killed Gaara as well, before he ran out of life force or whatever you want to call it, and died. So yeah, I guess that's not controversial either. But those are 2 characters that I wish we had spent more time with, it's nice that Haku got a little bit of a recap or like a revisit during the war. But Kimimaro, we got teased with him, and then he just kind of got like passed aside so that we could spend more time with Kin and Gin. I think I complained about this last week actually, but yeah, I'm still pissed about that. Reese's Puffs, ear up, eat moop, eat up. Yes. Reese's Puffs are god tier. They're amazing. I don't eat them all that often. I don't really keep them in the house because they're essentially like crack, and I just would never be able to survive with them within my vicinity. So yeah. I'm still catching up. Sorry. Ryomen says, I think Haku is light speed, at least at full speed. Oh, that's okay. Water bullet can also be translated as lightning speed, so there isn't enough evidence to call it light speed. Yeah, definitely going to be talking about Water Fang bullet. If you're talking about water bullet, like the one that's like the water gun that's fired by Gengetsu and Suigetsu, I don't think that's light speed. I don't think the Water Fang bullet is light speed either, but I think that, that one is more commonly accepted as light speed in the community. But I'm going to talk about why I don't think that's the case. And I'll explain why. Like, it's okay if we wind up disagreeing about some of this stuff, by the way. It's just me kind of sharing my perspective. Let's see. We have slightly different rating systems. For me, 6 out of 10 is when I still decently like something. Yeah, that's fair. I think I would still say that there are enough parts of both the... so maybe I would give... Road to Ninja like a 5, and maybe I would give The Last a 6.5 or something like that, because I really do like the interior of the planet. Maybe I should bump up The Last a little bit more. I really do like the interior of the moon. I mean, not planet, the moon. I like Toneri as a character. I like the Tenseigan as a conceit or as like a concept. I like the fact that we actually get to see Naruto and Hinata spending some time together and bonding, and like the romance between them feels pretty organic. It's just that the pacing feels kind of off, and there's a whole lot of time where nothing really happens of note. But it's okay. It's solid. There are some moments that I really like. The fight on the surface of the moon is a little goofy, but it's really cool. And with Road to Ninja, though, there's just so much downtime. There's so much inertia with the story. The whole premise of it is kind of silly to me. And then, like, I don't know, the Menma as a quote unquote villain initially was kind of compelling. But then him being Dark Link at the end was kind of, spoilers, I'm sorry, was kind of like not my favorite thing. It was okay. It's just, it didn't like. There were very few parts of that movie where I really felt connected and excited and like, oh my god, that's a really cool premise. And there was a lot of time where I was just like, oh, okay, we're doing this now. Okay, fine. So I just didn't have a lot of fun with it. I'm not saying it's objectively bad or whatever, but I just didn't really personally enjoy it. Zabuza definitely cared more about Haku than Orochimaru did about Kimimaro. Oh yeah, that's for sure. Even though Zabuza put up a tough front, like Orochimaru really actually did view Haku as a tool. Zabuza didn't really. He was just kind of faking with that. Maybe being in denial, denying himself as well as denying his intentions to the outside world. Shikamaru novel is the one with Jubito equals Hagoromo scan. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Kimimaro is one of my favorites. Yeah, me too. His ability set is so cool, and it's like, it feels like it's very well aligned with the like how visceral and not like gory doesn't feel like the right word because I associate like gory with like schlocky horror movies or whatever, but it's a type of like visceral, I guess, body horror or whatever that got incorporated into early Naruto that didn't show up quite as much later on. I mean, you get things like the eyes and Danzo's arm and like Obito harvesting the eyes, and then like this scene with the moon and everything. There are more like horrific, I guess, moments later on, but part 1 Naruto had a lot of like really brutal, like visceral moments, like Haku's death, for example. That's actually probably the goofiest thing in Blood Prison. So mild spoilers for the end of Blood Prison. There's a moment where 2 characters get speared through the chest with a piece of wood that's kind of like this, And by spear through the chest, I mean like their entire like stomach area and lungs and all of their intestines, like everything in their midsection just gets pierced right through. Like think about like a tree piercing through your midsection. And they like when Kurama pierced Minato and Kushina with his claw. It's like that, but even more. And they're pierced on the piece of wood, and while they're pierced, they're getting like swung around in the middle of battle, and they're having a conversation, and they're looking around, and they're just like talking to people, and then they get flung off, and then one of them gets up and like starts running around and doing stuff and talking. And that I was like, okay, how can you possibly explain this? Like, I really had to just choose to suspend my disbelief. Like, it was a conscious effort where I was like, I can't. There's no explanation as to like, oh, they put up a chakra barrier, or they have some sort of healing technique, or whatever, or it's a shadow clone. No, I couldn't figure out what the hell was happening with that. It didn't ruin it for me, but it definitely like made me raise an eyebrow towards the end. But that being said, then there's that scene with the train in Clash in the Land of Snow, where the sides of the train open up and they start firing these barrages of kunai out, and that scene is brutal, man. Like, there's stuff in both of those movies where, like with the I forget what it's called, but like the celestial fire binding or whatever that like prison jutsu is, that like sets people on fire. I was like genuinely kind of shocked that they went there, because I have forgotten how brutal Naruto can be sometimes. I know it feels weird to say with the entire series being about like ninja wars and battles and stuff, but I feel like there were parts of part one that had more grit to them, and then that kind of get lost and only brought back like on fairly rare occasions, like Jiraiya, for example, him losing his arm and then getting pierced. Like, that was a pretty harrowing scene, right? But it no longer was quite as frequent to my experience. So I was like, oh wow, this feels like it's kind of getting back into that viscerality, if that's the right word, of early Naruto. It's really cool. So again, like, thank you for the recommendation, and I'll look out for the other blood the other blood related thing. Ryomen said, and I liked how he allowed Lee to take his medicines. Yeah, likely because he was on meds for a long time as well. Yeah, that makes sense. There was a sense of mutual respect, there was sort of like a consideration of, this is a worthy combatant, and I'm going to fight him with decorum. I remember Orochimaru had a moment like that too, when Sai first approaches him. Orochimaru like stabs, quote unquote, him. It turns out he's like an ink clone or whatever, right? And then he's like, you should always approach people with the proper etiquette or something like that. So I think there is still a bit of respect and decorum even among enemies, that happens, and recognition of like, we're on opposite sides of the war now, but we both like hold the same traditions, the same overall principles and values, which is something that comes up in Blood Prison. You know, like Naruto gets asked early on, like, what are you willing to do to, like, how much are you willing to sacrifice to protect your village? Would you kill innocent people in order to protect your village? And then it's kind of suggested, like, no, if you're not willing to do that, then you're not a real shinobi. And then, like, what does Naruto do with that information? How does that clash with his ninja way? And I was like, oh, fuck, this is actually, like, a real-ass Naruto story. Like, this could have been in the manga. I mean, it is kind of goofy that the entire village just lets him get like hauled off to a prison and branded and tortured and like forced stripped naked and shoved in a box for like probably weeks, in total. Like, it is kind of weird that Tsunade just kind of hang out and let that happen and nobody did anything to stop it. But despite some like there are a couple of things like that, and like Killer Bee showing up doesn't really make sense with the timeline, in my opinion, but still, it was fun, you know. That's why it loses a couple of points, but apart from that, it felt like a genuine Naruto story that was tackling genuine Naruto themes, and so it was a good time. Saria says, Kimimaru and his spine sword. Yeah, that thing is so fucking cool. When he like opens up his shoulder and like leans to the side and pulls his own spine out. Well, I guess you could look at that and you could use that as a counter to my quibbling about the spear through the chest and just say, you know, Kishimoto will hype things up from an artistic standpoint to the point where they're non-literal, almost like it's a theater production, right? You're you're seeing things in an exaggerated sense, so that you get the sense of how I don't know, imposing the attack is, but you're not meant to take it literally. Like, oh yeah, they just literally had all their organs pulverized. You can kind of, he's inviting you to. Do you remember? I don't know if you guys will remember this, but at the beginning of not the recent Beauty and the Beast movie, but the old one, the old black and white one. I think there's like an introduction where there's this guy talking the into the camera, and he's like, "Look, guys, look. Okay, hang on. I know you're about to see like some magic bullshit, and there's gonna be like talking animals and all that, and I know we all know that shit ain't real, but I'm gonna ask you for a second to just like have a child's imagination and joy about this. I want you to go into the movie and just pretend, to just stop being cynical, stop being skeptical, okay? For the next hour or two, we're just gonna make believe together. Remember what it was like to be kids and have fun with things. Remember fun? Yeah, we're gonna have fun for a minute, and then the movie starts, right? So I think like one way that you can kind of try to not let that stuff get you down too much is to just take an approach like that. Like maybe it's okay to let a couple of those things slide. But of course, everybody's going to have their own personal limits and boundaries for that sort of thing. And obviously, like, I have things that I just can't stand myself, so I'm not asking anybody else to make the same concessions. Hey, Dr. Strangle, how's it going? Hope you're having a good weekend. You didn't really miss anything so far. We're just kind of chatting and doing Q&A and starting things up. Probably going to be getting started in a few minutes here, so no worries. Rioman says, I need to see that, must look funny. Yeah, it's kind of goofy. I recommend watching the whole movie if you haven't seen it yet. I did think it was worth the watch, and there's some good fight sequences, and then Naruto's internal struggle is also pretty compelling. I'm noticing a trend that like well, actually no, I don't want to spoil anything. Yeah, it's free on YouTube as well, so that and the Clash in the Land of Snow, which was pretty good too. The tree piercing part here. Yeah, I feel you. It does look a little weird, but I think it's worth it just to, or like it doesn't ruin the scene. There's enough other good stuff going on in the scene that I think, you know, it's okay to overlook. But you will be like, wait, what the fuck? How are these guys not dead? They should be like turbo dead. There's no way they could survive this. Like, even if Tsunade was using her 100 healings and like started in advance and had like spare organs, like there's no way that she would have survived that either. So it's like and then it's funny because afterwards Tsunade looks at one of these characters and she's like, I'm not even gonna try to heal this motherfucker. That person is so far gone, I'm not even going to try. Right? So they are messed up, but I don't know, like maybe it's a Kimimaro type thing where their willpower is just so strong that they're kept alive for a little longer to keep the fight going or something. I don't know. You'll have to come to your own conclusions when you see it. Let's see, Ryoman says, I'm planning to eventually check out all the material in Naruto. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, honestly. I've been consistently surprised at the quality of stuff that I've seen and read. I know that we've disagreed. I think like Darth Magog doesn't like the novels, and I understand where he's coming from. And yeah, some of the stuff can be a little tedious, but you find like little gems and you find cool stuff, and it's in general it doesn't feel so far, for the most part. My personal experience has not been that they're taking crazy liberties with the story and going off the deep end, and like obviously I don't think you can reconcile some of the stuff in in Road to Ninja with the overall series. Like, I don't think the timeline fits. I think some characters act out of character. That's part of why I don't like it so much. But overall, you know, they were still trying to do something that was kind of interesting and experimental and fit within the series overall. And the other ones feel like they could have, like, especially Blood Prison feels like it's a genuine, like, heartfelt Naruto story, if that makes sense. And the villain, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but like part of what the villain does is actually scary. Like, I don't get scared. What the hell am I talking about? I get scared all the time by media if it's scary stuff. And so, like, you know, I've been playing Silent Hill 2 remake, and like that scares me. I was not expected to be genuinely scared by a scene in Naruto, like especially you know, a scene in which then after a giant octopus shows up and starts rapping. But it's really creepy. So yeah, it's not going to spoil anything, but I would recommend checking it out. Let's see. Sorry says, I think these Naruto characters are just a bunch of freaks. That's how the universe works. Some people are freaks of nature. Some people get slapped with paper bomb, die instantly. Yeah, I mean, like, it's the, what is it, the whole, like, Stan Lee thing about, like, characters are going to be as strong as they need to in any given, or, like, I think you said specifically that if you're worried about, like, what character beats another character in a fight, the answer is always going to be whoever the author wants to win at that time. Um, I think that the authors are well within their rights to scale power, durability, anything else up and down to fit a given scene. If they wanted, like, I don't know, one of the strongest characters in the entire series who is tapping into some of the powers of anime Jesus, Hagoromo, who's basically, has more chakra than pretty much any other person in the entire world, who has clones that inhabit like parallel dimensions and shit. If they want him to die just by getting punched from behind, then they'll do they'll do that, Like, unless Black Zetsu's I don't want to start a whole fight about the Black Zetsu thing, but you know what I mean. Like, I think we talked before about how, like, Minato got that wood splinter in his shin. And there are other instances of, like, people are fighting with base kunai and metal weapons against some of the strongest characters late in the game. So I do still kind of think that, like, when necessary, even some of the top tier characters could be felled by, like, metal blades, but also they can tank, like, nukes to the face if they need to as well. It's weird, right? Some things just don't elegantly slot into power scaling categories, and that's good because then the story can be dynamic and can change and stuff like that. So, Ryoman says, "Oh wait, like Naruto grabbing his soul and yanking it back." Yeah, exactly. I think I can try. I think we've talked about this, and I can try to provide an explanation as to why that works within the overall power system. But also, you could, it's fine to not like worry too much about that. It's fine to just look at that and be like, yeah, that makes sense for the scene. Naruto has a great amount of spiritual power and chakra power, and he's able to interact with his own soul. It's part of him. That makes sense, right? Doesn't seem like it's really breaking the rules, especially when, like, I don't know, Don can then, like, fly out of his body, and before getting to heaven can get into Tsunade and give her his chakra, even though he doesn't have a physical form, and that, like, blah, 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 right? It's like, sometimes the rules get bent a little bit. That's okay. Ryoman says, I think it's better to have all the knowledge possible on a verse, because if you have some perfect scaling chain prepared, but one information catches you off guard, a lot of stuff can change. Yes, absolutely. I think it's really important to put things into context, and the more information you have, the more, like, broad-spanning, wide-spanning context you have, the more complete picture you can paint of all of this stuff. So, yeah, I absolutely fully encourage you to do so. That's a great approach. Ryoman also says, I think I was kind of scared of Sako and Ukon for some reason during their Kiba fight when I watched for the first time. Yeah, they have a really creepy ability, and it's kind of like part of their terror is you never quite know which one's in charge, and you never like know what they're going to do next. They're always like fluid in the first part of the fight, and then the idea of them entering your body and like merging with your cells feels extremely invasive. It makes you feel like super vulnerable, right? Like there's no, I mean, depending on who you are, you can defend against that. But for Kiba in that situation, just like thinking that you have the upper hand, and then all of a sudden your cells themselves are being like manipulated and invaded by almost like a virus in the form of a person, it's really fucking creepy. It's like body horror on a really intimate, gross scale, I guess you could say. But yeah, I'm going to take 2 minutes just to order some food. I forgot that I needed to grab some Thai food for myself and my partner for this evening. And then we're going to get started. So feel free to let me know if you have any questions or any other stuff that you want to go over. Of course, more than happy to kind of, whatchamacallit, like, skip around a little bit if you like. 1 second. I hope everybody's been having a good week. I have also finished playing Silent Hill F, and I did really enjoy it. I think that it's, not going to spoil anything either, but it's one of those games where um, you probably want to play through it again after you play through it the first time, just to see how things change. You know what I mean? Um, but it's definitely a lot of it's a very compelling story. It's very creepy. It's very atmospheric, and it does some interesting things with the series as well, where it's not just another entry, which I kind of wish it would be, in a sense. Like, I don't know if you guys have played Silent Hill Origins, but when that came out, a lot of people thought it was like too derivative and too samey and too similar, and that's fair. I mean, it kind of was, but also I think they're one of the it was one of the games that really captured the aesthetic, like the feeling of the rust and this fog and the other world transitions and just the ambient noise and everything. It felt like it really understood, the aesthetic sensibilities of the series, in an important way. And Silent Hill F instead was like, let's take the overall ethos or vibe of the series and let's bring that ethos into a new aesthetic. And I like that too, but I'm still waiting for somebody to come along and really grab that initial Silent Hill feel. The closest that I've gotten to it recently, maybe a few years ago, was a game called Lost in Vivo. If you're looking for a horror game to play for Halloween, I would highly recommend you checking that out. Very, very creepy. Not a very long game, and I think it was a solo developer, but still very impressive for what it is, and very, very scary within its own realm, if that makes sense. It feels like one of the Silent Hill developers could have left the team and made their own game, and then it turned into that. It's that good at evoking the same kind of fear. I highly recommend it. Saria says, yeah, to Riomen, that's me with Zelda, but not for Powerscaling, though I do enjoy scaling it. I just like to have all the knowledge possible so that I can scale from solid theories. Yeah, that makes total sense for sure. The only game I haven't played is Zelda BS, the Ancient Stone Tablet, but it's not canon or available for anything, and it hasn't been since the 90s. Question: have you played the CDI games, the Wand of Gamelon and the Faces of Evil? I'd be curious if you played those. I was gonna send you this video. Oh, it's on fucking YouTube's canceled. 1 second. Solving the Zelda timeline. This one. Yeah, have you seen this video here from Brian David Gilbert on Polygon, solving the Zelda timeline in 15 minutes? I got about, this way into it. I wasn't fully paying attention, but then it became a little jokey, so I wasn't, as you can probably see from the preview there, I wasn't sure, like, how seriously to take it. But it seemed like something you'd have strong opinions on one way or another. He tries to find a way to put in, like, Zelda's or Link's appearances in other, like, spin-off games, and to make them all fit within the canon. So, like, if one of Link's hats shows up in another game, then he'll try to figure out how Link fits into that game as well. So you might enjoy that. I don't know. But yeah. Okay. So I think I'm gonna grab a drink of water, and I think we're gonna get started here. Actually, remember to write a fucking time code this time. Well, let me get my sticky note out. Okay, so start. The discussion is going to be at 36 minutes in. Okay, so thank you very much for checking out the video. Thank you, folks, for stopping by. Hope you all are doing well. Tonight we're going to be talking about light speed in Naruto. To be specific, we're going to be investigating the arguments as to whether or not Naruto characters, including potentially Naruto himself, move at the speed of light. Now, just to be clear, just to make sure we're all on the same page, when I say moving at the speed of light, I mean like physically transposing a character's body from one position to another position over space. So something like Kamui or Flying Raijin or a summoning jutsu or something like that wouldn't count. Technically, you could argue, like, depending on how you think something like a summoning technique works, that they're technically faster than light because they might be instantaneous. So I'm not going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking about actual physical character movement, and seeing if characters in Naruto do move at the speed of light or not. So let me just start off by saying that I understand that the general consensus on this topic, people seem to already kind of have made their minds up. And in general, not speaking for everybody obviously, but in general, it seems to be most people that I talk to about this do think that at least some characters in Naruto can move at the speed of light. And usually, especially when you get later in the series, like characters like Madara, for example, and then going on to Tonari, which actually I need to make a note to talk about Tonari because I almost forgot. Getting on to Tonari later on in the series, most people do agree that Naruto characters are the speed of light. My personal belief is that they are not. And when I say they're not, I don't mean that they are definitely 100% proven to not be, and that anybody who believes that they are stupid and you've been lied to. No, I'm not that hardline about it. What I believe is that there is no good, solid, reliable evidence to demonstrate that they are. In other words, there's no reason to believe it, in my opinion. There's no good reason to believe in it. Now, that being said, I believe in the value of headcanon. I believe in the value of personal interpretation. And at the end of the day, you know, we're all interpreting art here. Yes, power scalers and calcers and every other person who's like debaters, people who are talking about the narrative, all we're doing here is we're interpreting art, and we're going to come to different interpretations using our different tools, our different perspectives. So it's okay if we disagree. I'm not really out here to prove to anyone that Naruto characters are or are not Lightspeed per se, but I do think that some of the arguments that have been ingested and accepted by the community over the years are a little confused or misguided. Some of them are a little bit disingenuous. Mostly there's just one big core misunderstanding, and we'll get to that very soon. And what I want to try to do is I want to try to clear up the core misunderstanding and then like kind of let you guys back at it, right? If I can kind of explain what I think the problem is with that misunderstanding, then that'll kind of help free people up to approach the arguments in a different way. If you wind up coming to the conclusion that Naruto is still the speed of light, or maybe you acknowledge the problem, but you don't think it's an actual issue and it just strengthens your belief, that's great. If you wind up believing even more strongly in your belief that Naruto is light speed, and you think that this video just helped prove you even more right, that's okay. Like, I don't have beef with you. But I do want to try to clear up what I consider to be those sort of foundational misunderstandings, because unfortunately, while they still exist, it does make conversations about this stuff kind of difficult. And the conversational, like the misunderstandings tend to pile on one another and form like this big, like a Ouroboros, you know, like a snake eating its tail, where they just kind of feed into one another and they never end. And to kind of share like a personal anecdote about that, when I try to talk to people about this stuff, obviously this is not everybody, but pretty consistently, if I say I don't think X, Y, or Z light speed feat is true, I don't think X, Y, or Z Naruto character can move at the speed of light, I will get pretty consistent responses from people, like in YouTube comments. I'll see this happening to other people who are doing the same thing, right? People will say, oh, you're just trying to downplay the Naruto universe, you're just trying to rage bait, or you're a One Piece fan or a Dragon Ball fan, and you're just trying to downplay the Naruto-verse. Now, just to try to get ahead of that a little bit, I am a Dragon Ball fan. That's true, but I'm also a Naruto fan. And regardless of what my fandom is, I want my universe that I'm interested in to be represented accurately and fairly. I want to understand it correctly. I want to help other people understand it correctly too. I grew up reading Dragon Ball and Naruto at the same time. I think they have very different power scales. Their power scaling is not really relevant to one another, and I don't think like appreciating or enjoying either series has anything to do with a comment on the scaling of the power levels of the other series, if that makes sense. As for One Piece, per recommendations of people on the channel, I have just started it. The most impressive feat that I've seen thus far is that a character called Zolo gets fed a rice ball that gets dropped in some dirt, and then he eats the dirt inside the rice ball anyway, which is impressive and a little scary. That's the greatest feat that I've seen in One Piece. So I have no horse in the race. I don't know anything about Bleach. I think I've read like 10 chapters of that as well, so I'm not a Bleach fan either. No disrespect to that universe or anything either, but that's not the point. It's just kind of unfortunate to me that people who feel that, I guess, the Naruto universe is being threatened or insulted or infringed upon feel the need, I think, to try to build up Naruto as strong as possible to make the universe seem better or cooler than others, and in doing so tend to reach for whatever bits and fragments of arguments they can find. But if those bits and fragments are taken out of context, it just leads to everybody, including people like in our community, just like misunderstanding things. So I don't know why this says heading over here. It's annoying. So that's what I want to talk about. How did we get here? What are the core misunderstandings? Why is there still such confusion around this topic? Hopefully, if you're coming across this video, you will do me the benefit of the doubt or the common courtesy of give me the benefit of the doubt that I'm not just trying to piss people off. I know I come across that way sometimes. I promise it's not like what I'm trying to do. I really am just trying to clear up the misconceptions and to get to the bottom of what I think is the problem here. Let me check chat real quick and then we'll go to the next section. Sorry says, I have played those games mostly just for the experience because Aonuma has made it very clear that the American Zeldas, cartoon included, aren't part of the franchise. Ah, I see. Okay. Is he okay with Hyrule? What is that game called? Is it like Cadence of Hyrule, the musical game? Does he? That was made by a Western developer, right? Is he cool with that being part of the overall inclusion? It's made by the same guys who did Crypt of the Necrodancer, if I remember. Sorry, says, I'm not out here to prove to anyone Naruto characters aren't Lightspeed. Meanwhile, me, 2013 Carrie is a closeted lesbian, and this is why, in this thesis. I mean, yeah. I saw a video recently that made a really compelling case that Neo in the Matrix is a representation of, like in the closet trans experience, like pre-transitioning human. And I really like that. I don't know if it's factually what the directors intended, but I think one of the Wachowskis has transitioned, right? Like they are, don't know for sure. I can't remember her name, but yeah. But anyway, I really like that reading, and now knowing that she has transitioned, it makes that theory like more compelling, and it makes parts of Neo's journey feel more I guess like visceral, like even if it's not an intended consequence. I feel like, so I don't want to get into a whole long thing about death of the author and all that, but I do think it's interesting to look for ways in which an author's like personal experiences wind up manifesting in art. I tend to believe that it's very difficult, unless you're really just doing like work for hire shit, but even then it's still very difficult to get your own like ethics and personality and worldview out of your writing or out of your composing or whatever. And so it makes sense that would appear as part of the narrative, even if it wasn't like, hi, I am Wachowski person and I am sitting down to write the story specifically about the fact that I'm trans. Like it still manifests in the narrative in a way that feels very organic, and yeah, it's not surprising. That's cool. Okay, so I just want to establish as well, with regards to Lightspeed Naruto stuff, that the conversation is a little confusing to get into in the first place, because the majority of people that I've talked to in the community do agree that at least some characters in Naruto are Lightspeed, and do tend to have this kind of backfire effect that, like, what, you're questioning this? Like, you don't think they are? How could you? Like, even if it's not like a confrontational thing, it's just like, wow, I'm really surprised because I thought everybody knew this was the case, right? So I was curious as to where the arguments were coming from in the first place. Before I started like whining about it, I wanted to just make sure that I understood the origins of the points that were being made. Also, I'm just now noticing that Jump Comics has this little pirate guy with a huge ass mustache. I never noticed that before. I don't know why. That's cute though. But what's funny to me is that if you read through the entirety of Naruto, right, if you just pick up the manga and read from cover to cover all the way to the end, which I've done about 3 times in the past couple of years, there is only one example, just one, in the entire written series of anybody saying anything about the speed of light, and that is Mabui's Heavenly Transfer Technique. If you're not familiar with Heavenly Transfer, it's also called Ethereal Transmission Jutsu, and this is the technique that Mabui uses to teleport the Ember Purification Jar to the battlefield, and later on she also uses it to teleport Tsunade and the Raikage to the battlefield as well, and in Katsuyu too, I guess. If you want to know, I'm sorry, I can look up the chapters. The second chapter is 562, and then the first one is 529. If you want to look up those chapters and read them yourselves, feel free. I encourage you to do so and to read them in context, but we'll be going over them in a lot of detail in a little bit. There is one statement from the anime which I've seen before, and I couldn't find in time for the stream, I apologize, but there is a scene from the anime where Haku says, I move at the speed of light, or I move as fast as light between my mirrors, or something like that. So there's one from the manga and one from the anime. So how is it that if there's only one and let's say a half, depending on how you think of the anime as being canon or not, there's 1.5 statements in the entirety of the primary Naruto source that says anything about light speed, meaning like a character says, hey, this thing that I just did is light speed, the thing he did is light speed, the thing this legendary person did a million years ago, whatever, that was light speed. That comet over there, light speed. That light beam over there, light speed. The only phrase that we really hear is in regards to this one thing. Then where are we getting all these other arguments from? And they are all coming from the databooks for the vast majority. There are some that come from the novels. I want to focus on the databooks tonight. I need to spend more time with the novels, and we'll get to those next week. Tonight we're going to talk about the novels because these are the arguments that you're going to hear time and time again. And I'm sure you've heard some of these before, right? You've heard people saying that Haku can move between his mirrors at the speed of light. You've probably heard that Itachi has an ability called Water Fang Bullet that he uses that fires at the speed of light. You've probably heard Kirin described as the speed of light. And you may have also heard it described as the speed of lightning, but I've heard people say that it's light speed as well. I should also put in here that, like, another one that comes up a lot is Kakashi, or like the Raikiri lightning time, right? Kakashi as a child, like 12 or 14 or whatever he is in the Anbu, slices through a lightning bolt. So that means that he would be the speed of lightning, which means that he'd be way faster as an adult. I think the return stroke of lightning is something like 1/3 of the speed of light. So it's like, people will make that argument that, oh, well, he was already, part of the way there when he was a kid. It's not all that crazy that he would be much, much faster as an adult. Toneri, actually, I didn't mean to say Toneri, I should have said Urashiki, right? Urashiki traveling across the cosmos. Mifune's Light Slash, and of course, Madara's Light Fang. This is the one that I think a lot of people have probably heard of, and it probably comes up a lot. Madara has this attack where he spits light out of his mouth and slashes it at Naruto and stuff like that. So you probably heard those arguments before. And all of those arguments, all of the statements that are used to support those arguments are all coming from the databooks. In other words, Haku himself in the manga never says, I can move between my mirrors at the speed of light. He says something along the lines of, I can move so fast it looks like you guys are basically standing still or aren't moving at all. But he himself and nobody there on the scene uses the phrase speed of light. When he shows up again in the war arc, nobody uses the phrase speed of light. Zetsu says something about the Kirin being 1/1000th of a second, which we've talked about before. It's not really a speed measurement, it's just kind of a number he throws out there, but that's not the speed of light either. The Raikiri, slicing through a lightning bolt, not the speed of light. The Lariat, the Light Fang. Nobody actually in the manga ever says the speed of light except for Mabui and the Raikage and all that, right? During this scene for this particular jutsu. So, that's not necessarily a problem, as long as the databooks are reliable. If you pick up a databook and the contents of the databook are reliable and dependable, and you can just assume that what's in the databooks is valid, then that's fine. If you come across a statement that says that, I don't know, let's see, to use the Madara example, right? Like, Madara slashes at Naruto at the speed of light. Well, if you know that the databooks are reliable, then great, you can just accept that at face value. But how do we know that the databooks are reliable in the first place? Why should we just accept what's in them? Well, there's kind of a spectrum of how people see the databooks. On the one hand, let's say on the left side, I'm gesturing with my hands, you can't see me, but like raising my left hand all the way over to this side, okay? On the left hand, you have people who say the data books should be trusted implicitly because they are official publications. They're published by like Shueisha or Jump or whatever. They have Kishimoto's name on the cover. I know I have the Japanese version here, but like it's Kishimoto is listed as the author. Right? There's other editors and people who contributed to it, but they're written by Kishimoto. At the very least, they have his stamp on it. Right? It's his work that's being put forward, and they are canon in the sense that they accurately represent the overall events of the story. They fit in with the overall narrative, etc. Right? They're not like completely separate side stories. They're not things that are made up by fans that are just kind of shoved in or whatever, right? This is official canon material. However, that does not necessarily mean that everything in them is written in a way where things should be taken in the most literal way possible, that everything is written from the perspective of a reliable narrator, meaning that like we're just supposed to believe that the voice speaking to us from the book that's telling us things knows what they're talking about and is being honest with us. That's not necessarily the case. And that it accurately reflects what's in the manga, that there's no mistakes, no typos, or no just like weird errors or continuity mistakes, right? It's a book that's written by people, and people can make mistakes. And also, given that it is a work of narrative fiction, it can be presented to us in different ways. It could be presented to us literally, it could be presented metaphorically or hyperbolically. All of these are options. So you have people on the other side. Now I'm waving my right hand on the other side of the room frantically. You have people on the other side who say, well, the data books are not officially part of the manga, so they're bullshit. Fuck the data books. Don't ever use them. They're completely irrelevant. They're nonsense because they're not primary source material. So why would we pay any attention to what they have to say? And they will often point out examples of hyperbolic or misleading or exaggeratory statements. And for me, I'm right in the middle, because there are things in the data books which are clearly just wrong, like factually incorrect. Then there are things that are absolutely correct, great summaries of what happens in the story. They fill us in on information. They give us more context to what happens, and our experience of the series and our knowledge of the series overall increases as a result of reading the data books. And there is, it's also just fun, right? They are fun, vivid, entertaining, exciting descriptions of some of the characters in Jutsu and all that, and they're enjoyable. But there is a lot of stuff in there that is hyperbolic, that's exaggerated, or that's just written with fun, colorful language. Some people tend to say that the data books are written for the purpose of instructing and informing, and they're like dictionaries, and therefore you should accept everything in them at face value because they are encyclopedias. But the reality is, if you read through them, you'll find that there's a lot of very colorful, playful, fun language, and it's not just factually not written like a fucking dictionary. It isn't. And you don't have to take my word for it. Anybody who's watching this, regardless of what you think about Lightspeed or any other argument, regardless of what you think about the data books currently, love them, hate them, pick up one of them. I recommend the third one because you can get an official English version, official translation from Crunchyroll for $10. And it's not sponsored, it's just where I happen to get mine from. You can get it from Amazon too, probably. But pick it up and just read it cover to cover. Like, actually read through it. And when you get to a statement that seems suspicious to you, or seems exaggeratory, or seems like colorful, just note it in your head. Don't judge it. Don't like throw it out. Don't be mad at it or whatever. But also, as you're going through, don't necessarily assume that everything you read is true or false. And when you get to the end, just take stock of what you've read and just ask, like, okay, how much of that really works if we take it literally in the most like dry, factual, power scaly sort of way possible, or does it make more sense if there's a more of a nuanced approach? And that's actually, I'm gonna fucking inhale in a second here. That's actually what we're going to do in a second, right? What I want, like the core message, the most important thing that I want to accomplish with this series of videos is just to encourage everybody to go into the data books and just not assume that the data books are inherently true or to be taken literally for power scaling purposes. I'm not asking you to reject everything in the data books. I'm certainly not asking you to accept anything either. I'm not asking you to see them as garbage, and I'm not asking you to see them as a fucking gospel. but I'm asking you to take each statement in context, think about how it actually fits in with what you see on the panels in the manga itself, and then ask whether or not it's an accurate reflection of what happens, and whether it enhances or detracts from your understanding of what happens for power scaling purposes and for narrative purposes as well. My personal feeling, my approach after reading all of the data books from cover to cover, is that they're written for fun. And yes, they're informative, but they aren't written for people to take them literally for power scaling. Yes, the author cares about the scale of the power in his world, but they're not made specifically for power scalers to then directly correlate to VSB definitions and power outputs, and so they're not really reliable to be used for the purposes of debating or scaling. You have to put them into context with what's on the panel. They are a secondary supplemental source, not a primary go-to, if that makes sense. But I'm not here to just preach to you. I'm not here to just tell you have to believe this. I want to go through and show you a couple examples and prove to the extent that I can of what I mean. And at that point, if you're like, okay, I get where he's coming from, that's great. Then I feel like I've done my job, because then you can go to the data books and you can explore them yourselves and come to your own conclusions. And if I've managed to kind of illustrate that point, that will be great. And then when we're done with that, we can actually start talking about some of the actual light speed arguments. I think we'll get to the actual light speed scaling tonight and start going through some of these arguments. First, we're going to talk about a couple of examples that from the data books that come up very frequently. So we all just kind of cinch that point. And then we can start talking about like some of the more common things like Haku, Waterfang Bullet, and stuff like that. So let me catch up on chat. HR Noman, how you doing? Thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you're having a great evening. Thank you for the thank you for the well wishes. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been looking forward to talking about this for a long time. I mentioned some of it way back in my Itachi versus Pain video, but this is one of those topics that I keep kind of like rubbing up against with people, and I've had some light friction with people about it, and so I'm hoping to help clear that up. And it's been fun for me as well, kind of going back and looking at these arguments a year later and seeing like where my opinions have changed, what things I've learned. I do want to give a quick shout out if you guys are interested in learning more about this topic. I'm sure you guys already know these folks, but check out Six. Six made a video a few years ago. What the hell? Yeah, Six made a video a few years ago called Light Speed in Naruto. I disagree with his conclusions. Okay, I disagree with his conclusions on some points, but overall, I think he did a really good job of summarizing the topics. He comes at it from a pretty fair and unbiased place. He represents things pretty well. You know, the approach that he takes is one where he tries to be neutral and unbiased and just give an overview. Like, he doesn't seem to have a strong horse in the race, so to speak. So I liked this a lot. I got a lot out of it. I would recommend other people to check this out. And then recently, Thunder God TG also did a light speed Naruto video, I think, like about a month ago. Where is it? Yeah, is Naruto light speed in 2025. This one over here. Check this out as well. Very similar vibes to the 6 video. He kind of goes through and explains all of the kind of contemporaneous arguments or whatever. Again, I disagree with a lot of it in terms of the arguments themselves, but the way that it's presented is like kind of fair and it's thorough in terms of familiarizing yourself with the topic. So I think it's a good resource. I think, you know, there's obviously a lot of effort put in. That is a really unfortunate, that is a really, really unfortunate place to, to fucking hover over. Oh my God, I'm cursed. But shout out TG. I have to move away from this. This is a good video. You should check it out. But yeah. Jesus Christ, man, what the fuck? All right, let me catch up on some other stuff. Cadence of Hyrule is part of the franchise, but not part of the main canon, similar to Hyrule Warriors. Oh, okay, gotcha. If you read the Zelda Encyclopedia, you'll see in the still more like, oh, okay, so they have, oh, it's like an omniverse. Okay, that's cool. I really like that. These games aren't on the core timeline, but they exist in the greater universe, and this section of the book includes Hyrule Warriors. Oh, so they are actually including like Soul Calibur and stuff in there too. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if they had like any kind of in-universe explanation for those crossovers. I know like Smash, there's, you see a bunch of characters coming through portals, right? So I don't know if that's ever explicitly fit back into the main timelines of the games that they come from, but they do at least try to provide some kind of excuse, quote unquote, for why they all show up there. So that makes sense. Literally, crossovers and spin-offs are all there, just not the CDI games and cartoons, so Cadence is fine. Okay, cool, yeah. Did you say you did play Cadence? Are you a fan of it? I really wanted to like Crypt of the Necrodancer, but I couldn't really get into it for whatever reason. In fact, the Zelda team even actively got involved with the story, and so they wanted full control over how the Triforce was written, so not to interfere with the lore. Okay, that's cool. I think people need to look at things from the middle ground. Supplemental materials is there to enhance the experience, but sometimes to enhance the experience means to use flowery language. Yes, absolutely, preach. Like, absolutely. I think we're going to get to examples of this, but I think the joy of... there's a tone of, like, joy and playfulness and fun, and... How can I say this? It is an assumption to say that the author specifically wants his words to be interpreted literally in a way that's like convenient for power scaling, I guess. So, for example, if I don't want to give away what we're going to talk about next, but if there's a statement that says something like, this character has an attack that is completely overwhelming, and an enemy can only stand in horror before being devoured, then it's like, okay, that's a cool description. What is the attack? Oh, it's Sasuke Part 1's Fireball. Oh, okay. So are we really supposed to look at that and be like, Sasuke would like take out all the Otsutsuki in the universe if they were in a conga line in front of him? Because all the enemy can do is just be in horror and be engulfed, right? That's their only option. Clearly he's universal. Like, obviously that's like not what was intended, right? But you wouldn't go all the way to the other side and say, well, the author is just like lying to us and yanking our chain and basically just writing whatever the hell he wants. It doesn't need to be in one of those two extremes. At the end of the day, we can infer the intention of the author by looking consistently at the words that are used throughout the whole Databooks, which is why I think it's important to always read the whole book, not just an excerpt from it. And then we get the impression that, like, oh, okay, he wants us to understand, like, the intended use of the jutsu, the emotional impact of the jutsu, the overall aesthetic and design and like aura of the jutsu, more so than he wants us to understand the fucking like joule output of it. You know what I mean? And it's fine if we want to go ahead and apply like physics to it. That's cool, but just understand that in doing so, we are then starting to apply our own like filters of interpretation, and we need to be careful not to discount the context of the original work. You know, that's only fair. Saria says sometimes they may be a bit exaggerated. One of my favorite examples of this comes from the Dragon Ball guides, having being stated to be this beyond dimensionality plane of existence. Obviously that's not true because Goku needed to get back to Earth on a time limit, and the same passing time on Earth was passing when he was dead, so it's just to say it's a special place. Yeah, it's right. So like that one particular line of dialogue winds up being has less explanatory power when it's taken independently on its own, and it does a better job when it is allowed to fit into a broader context. You actually understand the story better if you take that piece of information and put it into context with the story, and you actually understand the story better if you apply it to that context, if that makes sense. Both of them should be working in tandem to reinforce one another instead of just like one being like swooped out and harvested for data, or like quote mined, or whatever you want to call it, right? Let's see. Ryomen says, I mainly take the Databook statements as valid if they're being very specific, like, for example, this is the strongest in the village. Yeah, that one I would actually be somewhat skeptical of, because, you know, there is this statement, I think it's in the first fan book, that says, like, Orochimaru is the strongest of all village enemies. And it's like, well, at the time Itachi was around, and Orochimaru himself later says, I think towards the end of part 1, says that Itachi is stronger than he is, and then we see Itachi just like deck him, right? So I think it's worth still being like healthily skeptical of that. But yeah, there's one I'm going to talk about Kakuzu in a little bit, that like sometimes the Databooks just give us more information, and as long as the information is not like crazy contrasting with the stuff in the manga, it's generally okay to accept that. Sometimes it's difficult to figure out what to accept and what to discard, and that's a genuine challenge. There's not always an easy answer, but I'll talk about that more in just a second. When they say some jutsu is impossible to counter, then obviously they're not literal because they're consistently contradicted directly. Yeah, I would agree with that. But the difficulty then comes in, like, so going back to the Itachi versus Pain thing, right? I'm sure you remember that Noodles said something along the lines of the, what the fuck is it called? The Yaramir and the, I'm blanking on the name of the blade that comes from the Susanoo of Itachi and, pierces the Totsuka blade, right? Totsuka blade. The Totsuka blade can cut down any enemy, right? And the Yaramir can block any attack. I think we look at something like that and we're like, oh, okay, well, Itachi's God anyway, so like, you know, it makes sense that he would have a sword that can defeat anyone and a shield that can block any attack. But, you know, if we get to something like, I don't know, Sasuke's fireball can vaporize anything it touches, then we're like, well, clearly Sasuke is not that strong, but clearly Itachi is that strong. And my point is like, okay, well, how do we know that we're right about the things that seem clear? Like, how do we fact check that? How do we double check just to make sure that we're not making a mistake there? Because, you know, implying that Itachi has a sword that could literally kill literally anyone, which is what Noodles was arguing in that debate, that's a pretty bold statement, and that has pretty wide-spanning implications for the series. Like, okay, so he could just like hack through Shibai, right? As long as they're in the same dimension at the same time, because they said he could cut down any enemy. Or if Shibai only exists in a transcendent dimension, then that would mean that by definition the Totsuka bleed would have to be transcendent as well, or something like that, right? Like, you can just imagine, I'm not making those arguments seriously myself, but you can imagine where the arguments go if you assume that the Databook statement is true and you take it literally, then X, Y, and Z are also true, and then that changes how you see those other things. So it's one of those things where I think, again, it's important to be healthily skeptical. Yeah, let's see. Ruman says, I don't like 6. Oh, that's a shame. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that more, but yeah, so I'll just be totally blunt. I used to be a fan of 6s. I guess I still am. The term fan kind of feels weird, but like, I was a mod in his chat on YouTube. I would go to all his lives and stuff like that. And then I kind of wound up leaving that little community because I felt like what felt to me like low-key homophobic, like, not hazing, but what do you call it when like bros are just kind of like making fun of each other for fun, right? Like an in-joke type thing. And I was not really impressed with that. I found it kind of like off-putting. And then there was some stuff where like he was going on TikTok and yelling at people, and I was just like, nah, I don't really like that. So then I was in Sage's Discord server, and I, admittedly in kind of an immature way, I was like ranting in like a general chat about how like 6 is homophobic and blah blah blah. And then 6 actually reached out, and Sage set up like like a sit down, like the fucking Sopranos, between the two of us, and we talked for a while about it. And like, he didn't really know me, but he still took the time out of his day to like have a peaceful conversation with somebody who was publicly calling him out, so to speak. I didn't really mean it for that way. I was really just like venting. But anyway, you know, he did that, and he was really nice about it, and he heard me out. And at the end, banter, yeah, that might work, Dr. Strangle. That's a good point. And at the end, I was like, you know, I still don't really agree with everything you say, or like I don't really like it. I don't enjoy it personally. It still feels weird to me, but I get it. I get where you're coming from. I understand it's kind of like your thing, and so we're cool. And I, you know, like mentioning that story because it's a rare example of disagreeing with somebody, you know, pretty strongly in the community, but having them like be mature and like gracious about it and being able to resolve stuff. I still find that some of his videos I really like. And some of them I don't like so much. My biggest piece of feedback, if he were to be listening, that I would give him is just that some of the videos I've seen him do, I really like what he's talking about, but then he like cuts himself off. It's like, I'm going to talk about, the one that I keep talking about is like, let's talk about Naruto being a genius or not being a genius. Okay, great. This is going to be like an hour to 2 long video, and we're going to talk about Naruto's feats throughout the entire series, and oh, the video's already over. You know, it winds up kind of being like shorter and more of a surface level evaluation than I would like. But that's not me saying this video is due to fucking feces. Like, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Like, I would never say that, and I don't feel that. It's just the only frustration that I'm having is, oh, cool, this is great. It's like you give me like the cheese off of a slice of pizza, and I want the whole pie. You know what I mean? So, anyway. Let's keep going. A supernatural realm ruled over by the gods, standing above the heaven and unperceptible from the mortal realms. The gods look down on all existence from this plane. That's kind of a cool quote, honestly. Dr. Stengel says, a natural tone does not mean it is actually natural. Yeah. You have to, like, the context is so important. Like, you understand. Like, we've talked to Sage about this, and, you know, like, we've talked back and forth about this over the weeks and months and all that, so yeah. Ryomen says, I'm fairly sure that his statement means it being physically located above it, but Saria says it just gets over-literalized a bit about the godly realm transcending dimensions. I see. So it's a question of, like, is it actually located in a physical space that can be accessed physically, or is there some sort of, like, metaphysical, transcendent way that you have to access it, or it's, like, non-literal that way? If I'm understanding correctly. Ryomen says, to be fair, Itachi beat Orochimaru off guard with Genjutsu, and Orochimaru said that Itachi's stronger than him when he was already injured by Hiruzen. Yeah, that's fair. I interpreted Orochimaru's statement in that moment to be like, Itachi is just, like, stronger than me overall. But I could definitely see the counter-argument to that he was saying he's stronger than me right now. That being said, though, that wouldn't really contextualize Itachi's strength very well, because, you know, Orochimaru is very vulnerable and, like, nerfed in that moment, right? So I feel like maybe the context for that is more like he's trying to hype up how strong Itachi is. It makes more sense. It would hype Itachi up more if Orochimaru was referring to his strength overall, not his, like, now crippled state strength, you know. But I could see the argument to the other side as well. Saria says Naruto literally just eats fireballs to the faces. That was insane. Also, did I hear a furry baby in the room? Let me look around. I don't see one at the moment. I think it's probably dinner time for my dog and the cats, and so I think my partner might be feeding them. They're taking over while I'm on the stream. Let's see. Banter might be... Oh yeah, we talked about that before. I think Six is a massive weirdo. That's not why I like him, but the type of weirdo he is makes me dislike him. Would be complicated to describe, though. Yeah, like, I'm not, like, trying to talk shit about anybody on stream either. And so, like, if you don't, you know, everybody's entitled to like what they like and dislike what they dislike. So if he's not your style, then I totally understand. I just want to be you know, I'll be honest about the things that I don't like and the points that he makes that I disagree with. But then also, like, I appreciate the diplomatic nature of the interaction that we had. You know, that was pretty cool. But I think he did imply that peanut butter ice cream was gross, so he's fucking dead to me. Kidding. Oh, but yeah, that's fine. Yes, if I had to defend that Itachi over Orochimaru statement, I'd go the same way as you. Okay, cool. It's cool that we're aligned about that. Okay, I'm gonna have to about in 1 second. Let me send a text to my partner because we're getting a food delivery soon. Okay, 1 sec. Oh, okay. So, yeah, so before we start, like, delving deep into the databooks, I wanted to try a little experiment over here. You have to let me know what you think. So, I'm sure you have all encountered some databook statements over the course of your time in the Naruto community. I'm also going to make a timestamp. 1:16 and 16. Okay. You've encountered some statements. You've probably encountered the Light Fang or the Water Fang bullet, the Madara's Light Fang storm release thing. You probably, pretty much everybody I think has heard that the lariat is light speed or near light speed. Lariat? I never know how to say that. But anyway, that it's supposed to be approaching light speed at any rate. And like we talked about before, some of us would be more inclined to believe that the statement from like about Itachi being the speed of light would be more credible the statement about Itachi's Totsuka blade being able to pierce anything or kill any enemy would be more credible than the Sasuke's fireball. But why is that? When I read through the data books, and actually, to be honest, like, I had a conversation with Sage about this. I think, Dr. Strangle, you were there for this conversation. And at the time, Sage actually kind of caught me on something. And he said, like, I said that I believed in that the things in the data books, like age and height and blood type, could be taken literally at face value. And there was no need to second guess it, unless there was a very obvious problem. But with jutsu and with jutsu descriptions and character descriptions and stuff like that, I think we should be very skeptical. And he was like, well, why are you just going to accept that those other things are true? And I didn't really have a good answer for him at the time. I think I was literally just like, well, because they're so obviously true, right? Like, why would we second guess something that's just like a number? And then I think he turned around and said, well, yeah, well, that's how I regard the other data book statements. And I honestly didn't have a great rebuttal for that at the time. So I thought about that. And I want to kind of walk you through some of the, like, thinking that I tried to apply to myself after that conversation. So let's just say you are talking to somebody about statements in Naruto in the data books. And they turn to you and they say, I just found an amazing feat. It's really, really great. And the character that it's applied to is super fucking strong because of how amazing this feat is. Here, I'm going to quote you the feat, right? And so the quote that they say from the data books regarding this feat, regarding the jutsu, is, no one and nothing could take a direct hit and avoid pulverization. Doesn't that kind of sound like the statement that we talked about Itachi's Totsuka blade? Like, it could cut down any enemy. The Yaramira can block any attack, right? It sounds really similar. No one and nothing could take a direct hit and avoid pulverization. Now, how do we interpret a statement like this? How can we fairly and genuinely approach this and try to understand how it's meant to be taken and how to apply it to our understanding of the narrative and our understanding of the scaling? One second. Me, I want light speed feats. Databook, we got light speed at home. The light speed feats at home. A light speed statement. Exactly. That's how it feels. It feels like, what I heard this phrase recently, like bargain rack light speed statements, or like clearance rack light speed statements. I usually say like store brand Diet Coke light speed statements. Oh yeah, my partner is going to feed the cats. Okay. But yeah, so there are a few different ways that we could try to interpret a statement like this. One way is we can take the literal power scaling interpretation. When I say literal power scaling, what I mean is we take the statement literally, we assume that it's true, we assume that it's meant to be taken like verbatim, like word for word, and not taken in sort of a metaphorical context. Just take it literally at face value, and also, and this is the important thing for debates and stuff, also that we can just assume that it fits in to the power scaling paradigm. So if no one and nothing could take a direct hit and avoid pulverization, and we assume that that's literal, then we would assume that that means that the person doing this attack could kill any person in the verse, if not indeed destroy any singular object that the person attacks. Let's just say person for now, right? And that means that they have at least universal AP, as long as there is somebody in the verse that has universal durability. But even if they added a universal durability character into the verse, by definition, this character would be able to pulverize them. So they have potentially infinite scaling, but at least just for the sake of not being fucking crazy about it, universal AP. A literal interpretation that doesn't go into power scaling terms, doesn't like use power scaling terms at all, would just be that she could, I gave it away, be that this character, who shall remain nameless, and who I didn't spoil, that this character can perform a one-shot kill on anyone that they attack, right? Because that would fit the description too. If we're a little bit more skeptical about it, and we entertain the possibility that the statement is a little bit hyperbolic, and that it maybe is intended to hype the character up, Then we come to the conclusion that this character is extremely powerful within this given part of the story, within the framework at this point in time, compared to other characters. Or like when other characters look at this character performing this feat, they say, wow, can you believe how powerful that ability is? I bet that no one and nothing could take a direct hit and void pulverization. This is a diegetic description of what it's like for other people in the world to see this shit happen from their perspective. And then we could speculate about an agnostic position where you look at this and you're like, I have no idea how to apply this to anything. This seems so irrelevant. Or you just throw it out entirely and say this cannot be applied at all. So think for a second about which one of those perspectives helps you best understand the jutsu and fits in with the series overall. Is it the literal interpretation that then slots it into power scaling terms? Is it a literal interpretation that doesn't assume like VSB standards or whatever, but still takes everything word for word? Or is it a more nuanced, skeptic, hyperbolic interpretation? As we're thinking about that, I'm going to go to the jutsu entry and we're going to read it together. It's in the second data book, and it is the Heavenly Foot of Pain, a C-rank offensive jutsu used by Tsunade. And you may remember, this is the one that she does when she's just betrayed, quote-unquote, Orochimaru, and she slams her foot down on the ground and cracks the ground and, like, breaks the fucking castle that's in the background. Let's read the description. The heel swung down in anger, makes the ground rumble in kind with an ultra-hard smackdown. All of her body's outrageous strength is concentrated into her heel. Her stance crystallizes the body's dynamics in a magnificent demonstration of the art of hand-to-hand combat. And when her heel swings downward, it's as if a comet had fallen. Nothing and no one could receive a direct hit and avoid pulverization. The remainder of the impact smashed not only the ground, but the nearby rampart into tiny bits. So, I think it's pretty clear here that we're not meant to look at this, and I don't know what this is, that we're not meant to look at this and assume that this description has anything to do with the power scaling definition of universal AP, right? It would be really, really silly for us to just take that quote out of context, not look at how it applies in the manga, not look at how it applies within even the conversation itself, and then move on and just say, okay, well, Tsunade definitely has, like, universal AP. Not to mention, I can close my eyes and see it happening now. Somebody out there, I guarantee you, has taken this statement right here, or they would have if Tsunade was more popular maybe. They took this statement right here, and they calculated what the impact velocity of an average comet would be, and then they calculated Tsunade's DC based on an average comet. And if you think that's me being too snide or whatever, right? Like, you know, like I've heard certain people, noodles, make arguments that because Choji expands himself to the size of a mountain, then he is mountain level, and the mountain level definition that gets used is Googling average size of a mountain, which I guess somehow he and Nairobi got to be 3 kilometers in height. So it happens when people do this. They just take this out of context and they'll be like, that fucking Choji's mountain level because he is a mountain. He literally becomes a mountain, right, guys? It literally says that he becomes a mountain. You know what else it says? The spectacle, the glory, crushing everything in his path. So Choji also has universal AP, right? And also, if you want to quantify how big he is unbelievably giant. This means that Choji transcends the bounds of human imagination. And again, you might think I'm fucking with you. You might think I'm trolling. I have heard people say this shit in debates. I have heard people say that because X, Y, or Z thing is unbelievable or transcends imagination, that it is boundless. Naruto characters are boundless because they have jutsu descriptions that say unimaginable, okay, or unbelievable. So, no, I wish it were. I wish I were making this shit up, but this is the problem. It's the problem with just taking stuff out of context, right? But maybe this is just one crazy example, right? Like, maybe somebody on the team really liked Choji and Tsunade and thought they weren't getting enough hype and decided to put these in there and run rampant with it. So let's check a couple more really quick. Well, let me check chat first before I get totally carried away here. But one question I want to ask you if you weren't familiar with this statement, if you weren't familiar with this quote, who did you think it was that I was talking about? Who do you think had this feat? If you ran into this statement and you had no idea who the Jutsu caster was, who do you think it would have gone to? Would you have put it on Madara? Would you have put it on like Lee from part 1? Where would you have scaled it to? And were you surprised if I revealed that it was Tsunade in the end? Does that change the way that you see the feat? Are you now more skeptical? Just curious to know what your overall reaction to that would be. Ryomen says, Age's blood types can be taken because they are never contradicted to my knowledge except for pixel scaling and panel size inconsistency, but that's obviously not a real contradiction. Yeah, there should be a little bit of wiggle room allowed for like minor inconsistencies. Like characters are not going to be drawn extremely precisely every single frame. Mountains in the background are not always going to be drawn exactly the same size. That doesn't mean that you can never do pixel scaling either. It just means that like if you want to try to get the size of quote unquote a mountain in Naruto, it's probably good to like measure multiple mountains from multiple different angles and stuff, because yeah, there's going to be some inconsistencies both between like mountains in the real world, but also in terms of like the angles and how they're portrayed. And Kishimoto, as I've mentioned before, is a really, really big cinema buff, and so he likes to mess with camera angles and perspective, and so there's never any guarantee that especially wide shots and stuff like that are like 100% like accurate or whatever, you know. Yeah, like this is a good example over here. It's kind of tempting to look at this and then try to use this as the curvature of the Earth. Maybe you can. I don't know. I would be pretty skeptical of that. But anyway. Let's see. Meanwhile, jutsu are shown to be impossible to escape, and then it's shown the characters. Yeah, exactly. I have a couple. You actually just reminded me. I almost forgot. One of my favorites. I'm going to talk about those in a little bit. Thank you for for that phrasing. The difference between me and Sage is I like the height stuff as prescriptive and the jutsu entries as descriptive. Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I think it might have even been you who said this at the time, that like I'm stealing this from somebody. I can't remember exactly who, but like pointed out that specifically the jutsu, like the text in bold, like that, like this stuff, this text in bold, tends to be particularly hyped up. Usually the stuff in here will tend to be a little bit more grounded and more of just a description of what the jutsu does, but this will tend to be, I mean, it's not necessarily a cap or anything like that, but you know, it's like this, okay, akin to the crushing fangs of a gigantic beast. That's fair, that's an accurate description. But you know, if you're going to find stuff that's more exaggeratory or more like hyperbolic or whatever, it's probably going to be in the bold more so than here. But it's variable. Like it goes from jutsu to jutsu. It varies, right? So let's see. Let Inuyasha. This character can perform a one-shot kill. Yeah, Inuyasha at them and see how long they last. Oh man, I haven't seen Inuyasha in a long time. The person who draws that is the same one who does Ranma, right? I used to really like Ranma. I saw the Ranma anime on it came out on Netflix. It was really good. Kind of nostalgic as well. Let's see. And when it comes to jutsu, we can justify them not being literal by them being hyperbolic. There's no real reason to lie about age randomly, like context isn't something that can be hyperbolic. To be fair, I think you can make a decent argument for Tsunade having literally one of the highest striking strength in the verse. I think striking strength and durability scaling is misunderstood in Naruto. Yeah, I'd be curious to hear you elaborate on that. Like, what do you think is misunderstood about striking strength specifically? That's a really interesting notion there. But yeah, I think that when it comes to jutsu, it really, there's no real reason to lie about age is a good way to put it. It's kind of hard to think of a context in which misrepresenting a character's age would possibly benefit the story or have any value whatsoever. Like, you can argue that an attack that is, you know, like the spectacle, the glory, crushing everything in its path, like the purpose of this is to drum up hype and excitement for Choji, and to, you know, Choji also has like a bit of an over-the-top, larger-than-life personality sometimes, you know, when he's shouting about how he's pleasingly plump or whatever. So this also fits his personality. Like, you can imagine Choji himself saying something like this. But, I mean, I don't know what the purpose would be of, like, purposefully mislabeling characters' names or heights. That being, or like heights or blood types or whatever, or jutsu complete, or fucking number of missions completed. I don't know what the purpose of that would be. That being said, there could be some mistakes. Like I think I don't even remember what it was, but it's something about like Kisame's age, or maybe like somebody looked at like Kisame's age versus Naruto's birthday versus Kakuzu's age and was like, there's a 6 month time gap in Naruto. Like if you take this literally, so it makes more sense for Kisame not to be as old as he's reported to be in the data books, because if he is, then there's just like a 6 month window in the middle of Naruto that makes no sense. Something like that, right? Like I'm not getting it exactly right, but it's something along those lines. So there can be mistakes. This reminds me of the Cesaria. This reminds me of the same attack does not work twice on a saint thing, where all it means is once a saint has seen the technique, they know how it works and how to defend against it. Yeah, didn't Zabuza say something like that? Like both Zabuza and Kakashi were going like, Zabuza, that technique won't work on me twice. Did the same. Shame on me, twice on you. Oh yeah, well I knew you were gonna say that, and that's the last time you get to say that, because saying that I won't even hear it. It won't work twice on me. But I knew you were going to say that too, and I said, it's like, there's a little bit of that kind of going back and forth. Dr. Strangle says sixth gate guy. Oh, you guessed the sixth gate guy based on the description. Yeah, it seems like it would fit, right? It's just a very hype statement about an extremely intense, pulverizing physical attack. It feels like it would fit in with a character of that tier. And you could argue that Tsunade is that level. I'm not prepared to have that debate right now, but like, I'm sure if you were motivated, you could find a way to put Tsunade on that level, especially like War Arc Tsunade, in terms of her striking strength. Sure, right? So makes sense, and it's kind of cool that that's the like who you correlated it to. Yeah, the bold headers are very figurative, says Dr. Strangle, and the paragraphs are more bland standard language. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. You have a tendency of like, you're very good at synthesizing and summarizing something that I'm like grasping to try to say. So I appreciate that. Ryomen says, people often assume that AP of the jutsu is equal to the physical stats in Naruto, and that statement strongest applies to all physical stats. Interesting. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I feel like the term strongest in Naruto gets used in different ways sometimes, even within the manga. Like, sometimes it's referred to physical strength, sometimes it's referred to strength of character, sometimes it's used to refer to overall, like, skill as a shinobi and holistic strength, if you want to call it that. So I think it really depends on the context. Just like, that's, it's going to be fucking written on my tombstone. John the Maven. It depends on context. Yeah, hopefully that makes some sense. So, now that we've done that, let's do one more. This one, I'm sure some of you have already heard of before. And it is a certain character in the story is described as having a power that could easily turn the world to ash. Power that could easily turn the world to ash. Now, let's run through the little exercise in our head one more time. If we accept this literally with power scaling terminology, I've seen people do this. I think I just saw it on Google. We could go look at it together. People will look at this and say, okay, this character who can do this feat is planetary, because the world is a planet. Obviously, the world is talking about planet Earth, so that would be a planet. And turning to ash is, I've seen people say it's vaporization. So this means that this character is easily planetary in power scaling terms, and therefore we can scale off of this character and say that anybody else who can defeat this character is also planetary, etc., etc. Okay. Then there's the non-power scaling literal approach. So we could say that this character can easily either destroy the world with one attack, or maybe like has the power overall to go around blowing up the planet and would eventually destroy it, like some sort of a I don't know, like a horrible plague would destroy the planet. Like if a zombie plague wiped out the entire planet, you wouldn't say that the zombie plague itself had planetary DC, but you would still call it planetary by some non-power scaly sort of terminology. And then there's this skeptical term, or skeptical viewpoint, which is that, okay, maybe this character can't turn the world to ash, literally, but that is the terror, that's the fear that they strike in people's hearts. That's how this character is viewed by others. And when people think about the influence and the power of this character. That's what they expect. So diegetically, that's how the character is hyped up to be. So I'm going to pull up that statement. Just give me a second. I thought I had it right here. And as I pull up that statement, I want you to once again think about who that who that character might be. So let's get the third data book going over here. And go. I think this, I have my own physical copy, but I think I got this copy from Sage's, whatchamacallit, Discord. So shout out to Sage for sharing materials with people. That is appreciated. And as we're scrolling up, pretty soon we will find it. I think I just went a little bit too far. So give me 1 second to get back to where I was previously. I was scrolling through a whole bunch of stuff earlier today, so just need to find it. Okay, so there's this character called the Nine-Tailed Fox Spirit. And on the jutsu description, or the character description, on page 71, or I think it's just the narrative summary section, or the character file, page 71, third data book. Sealed inside Naruto is a powerful force that could easily turn the world to ash. Ninetales knows about the Uchiha past as well as Naruto's secret. Just what is this truth? During crucial periods in history, this tailed beast would appear suddenly and destroy everything in sight. The Akatsuki and countless strong men like Uchiha Madara have long tried to obtain its powers. Presently, Ninetales is sealed inside Naruto, but it bides its time waiting for the opportunity to take over Naruto's body and resurrect itself. There was a time when it was possessed by Uchiha Madara's eye. However, right now there is no one who can control its chakra. Interesting. Which is odd because, yeah, okay. So I think we can just sort of skim through this. It's impossible to completely suppress the Ninetales' power. Okay. So, again, let's, you you got it right, Dr. Stangle. This one is pretty well known at this point. So, here's the thing. A couple of things. First of all, destroying everything in sight, I don't know about that. Because the last time it showed up, well, the first time canonically that it showed up was when it fought Madara. And it didn't fucking destroy him. Hashirama did. The second time it showed up in the narrative, it showed up in Konoha. And it didn't destroy all of Konoha either. It was stopped. So, if we were to take this statement literally, this phrase literally, we would come to the wrong impression about Kurama overall. Now, granted, at this point in the story, we don't know anything about that. We never saw the Hashirama fight versus Madara. We haven't seen Obito take it, attack the village and all that. So we don't really know. At least I don't think we had seen that flashback yet at this point. So, or maybe it's kind of explained, because this goes up to just before the pain fight. So I forget if Obito told Sasuke that he attacked the village. If he did, then this information would be included in that. So that's fair. But that being said, obviously if we just took this literally, this would not really work. And if we look towards the end of the series, think about all of the things that the Ten Tails does in terms of how much destruction it wreaks? Yeah, how much destruction it causes, how many Biju bombs get thrown around, how big the Biju bombs are, their radius, their explosive capacity, right? Think about the fact that Kurama, I think, says that the Ten Tails is stronger than he is, right? And Kurama's gotten stronger over the course of the series. But even when the Ten Tails is rampaging, it doesn't come close to destroying the planet. It doesn't come remotely close to destroying the planet. Barely even punctures the surface, when you actually consider how thick the crust is. So no, characters that are way stronger than Kurama are still not demonstrating any feats on that level. So a weaker, earlier version of Kurama being hypothetically able to turn the world to ash doesn't really fit, does it? And suggesting that this means that Kurama fits specifically the power scaling planetary definition. And to be clear, the power scaling planetary definition, places like VSB and character stats and profiles, tends to be being able to destroy a planet that's equivalent or similar to Earth in a single, like, omnidirectional explosive or like attack, right? So basically being able to blow up the planet in one shot, kind of like what Boo or like Cell could do in Dragon Ball, right? Or like when Frieza blew up Namek, that would be a good example of a planetary attack. So, no, this is not what, this is not what Kurama ever does. And it's important that we understand that the way that this statement is meant to be taken is that, like, Kurama is viewed as this force of evil, a natural disaster, and a person or personage, whatever, who, if left unmitigated, left unchallenged, would go around attacking and killing people, and there are very few people who would be able to stop him, and then eventually he might be able to destroy the world one village at a time and leave everything in ashes. Like, if Kurama went bloodlusted and berserk mode, and he just, like, rampaged around and destroyed things, especially after Minato died, but also, like, you know, imagine that for whatever reason there was a plague and, like, all the strong shinobi died. Like, no civilians are stopping this motherfucker, right? Like, only basically, like, superhumans are getting in his way and bringing him down. So there is a situation in which Kurama turns the world to ash, but it's not with a fucking Biju bomb. This doesn't make him planetary in the power scaling sense. So not only should we be skeptical of the statements, but we should also be skeptical of how we use them for power scaling. I'm going to catch up on chat real quick. Let's see. People often assume... Oh, yeah. Saria says, I call this Dragon Ball scaling because people just assume that all things boil down to how strong you are. Your kit and context doesn't matter if a statement stays strongest. Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, like, I need to go back and evaluate this, because when I read Dragon Ball when I was younger, I kind of had the impression that the fights were more tactical and were more like Goku won not just because he was strongest, but because he came up with, like, kind of clever improv tactics. And I don't see that happening as much in like rereading the Buu saga and stuff like that. There's definitely some clever stuff that comes out, but yeah, it does seem, especially with the, you know, like the power-ups back and forth with the absorptions and the super Buu fights and all that, it seems to have taken a bit of a back seat compared to what I remember from like the Tenkaichi fights when Goku was younger. But I don't want to like slander, so I have to go back and reread. Let's see. By the way, says Ryomen, people argue that the afterlife is outer by using the statement lacks the concept of time and space. Yeah, it's that one I wonder about, because it feels to me like maybe it's like time and space outside of our space and time, but if time transpires there and people are able to have a sense of self and move around and interact with other things, that implies that there is some kind of concept of space, right? So I'm not sure. Dr. Strangle says, I translated that statement, and it is Naruto's body within is sealed to reduce... Naruto's body within is sealed to reduce the world/society to Ash's calamity. Ah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes much more sense. Just saying, like, yeah, I mean, like, think about it if it was like fucking Godzilla, right? Like, Naruto had Godzilla in his belly, and like if it popped out, it could destroy the world. That doesn't mean that it's like Godzilla has like a laser blast that could rip the planet in half, like Toneri reincarnation wheel explosion style, right? It just means that he is enough of a threat that if he keeps stomping around for a while and nobody stops him, then, like, yeah, he's gonna fucking break everything. Let's see. Realman says, but concept of something can mean that. Yeah, that's a good point too. Saria says, it's my issue with a lot of MCU scalers because they don't understand these characters have advantages over each other, and some, yes, are equal or stronger than other characters, but their kit makes a difference. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, isn't that sort of the core, like the whole meme that people who are irritated about power scalers use is like, Batman can beat X, Y, or Z with prep, right? Like, the idea is that there are certain characters who, as long as they have enough time to consider a strategy or contingency or something like that, then they can come up with all kinds of like crazy solutions, even if they themselves are not anywhere near physically as strong. Um, I feel like there was this series that I came across on YouTube that was just, maybe it's like an AI voice or something, but it was Batman in his like computer lab or something, and it was just a series of like contingency plans or something. And so it would be like there was one for Naruto, and he was like contingency plan like 332AC Naruto Uzumaki. Like, this guy uses a lot of clones, and it'd be tricky to have to pin him down. He also has the Nine Tails, right? And so he's like trying to come up with strategies for how he's going to defeat all these different people from different verses. It was actually a lot of fun. Let's see. Ryoman says, and it's even confirmed on Dragon Ball website that Goku moved at supersonic speed in the afterlife, which would be impossible if he had no time. Yeah, that makes sense, because distance over time means time, right? So, and distance implies space. You need to argue some cope, like imaginary supersonic speed, when it's just a website talking to the reader. So if it was that specific, then they'd tell you about it. Yeah, that seems fair to me. Even if the Kurama statement was literal, says Ryoman, it wouldn't be planetary or not even multi-continental. Yeah, it seems so obvious to me. Like, I agree, but like, for some reason, people look at that and they're like, no, 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 no. It says world, that means fucking Kurama's planetary. And then they will use that to say that Naruto is planetary. And see, here's the thing, right? It's like, the arguments tend to kind of like feed into each other and support each other in a weird way. So they'll say that like, well, Naruto is planetary because he's got Kurama, and that makes sense because they fight against Tonari, and I mean, Tonari slashed the moon in half after all, so it just makes sense that he would be a planetary level threat. I mean, there's a statement in that promotional piece of material that Tonari is the strongest enemy that they've ever fought before, so it would make sense that he would be planetary. I mean, like, the moon is basically like a small planet anyway, and then fucking Momoshiki shows up, and he's even stronger, so he would have to be planetary. And I mean, like, he goes around destroying planets. Yeah, but like, by destroying planets, he's actually just absorbing the chakra and the life force from the planets. No, he destroys planets, so he's planetary. Don't listen to that guy in the back. Anyway, so he's planetary, and that makes sense because we already know that Naruto's planetary, and we already know that Tonari's planetary, right? It's like, it's kind of like I don't know. This is like a bizarre example maybe, but it's kind of like your crush is sitting on the other side of the couch, and you just like kind of like move 1 inch over and 1 inch over, and it's like, oh, how did I get over here? I'm all the way over here sitting right next to you. How about that? You know, it's like that sort of cheeky like maneuver that guys try to do in a movie theater or something like that. Oh, how did my arm go all the way around you slowly, and now it's resting on your shoulder? It's that kind of an argument, it feels like. Well, we might as well make out because I'm already all the way over here. I'm not gonna like pick my arm up and bring it to the other side. It's like, no, you should have asked first. You don't just get to like teleport to the conclusion. But then, like, if you challenge any part of those individual things, then it's like they're connected to everything else. So now, yeah, you know what I mean? Like a big like spider web. Even if the Kurama statement was literal. Oh, yep. Saria says, real, I wouldn't be shocked if people do argue this. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised either. Realman says, yes, yes, that's the only counter you can have. Either that or statement being contradicted. I debated Tonari versus Kaguya in the statement you've mentioned recently. I think Kaguya wins easily. Yeah, I'd be inclined to pick Kaguya if I had to choose. I'd be curious to hear you elaborate on that. But, I mean, like, I think we talked about this like a month or so ago, but Tonari can do some stuff that is pretty impressive and cool, but like Kaguya's kit is just terrifying, and I don't know. The only statement that I've heard that seems like a solid piece of evidence is that Tonari is the strongest opponent that they've faced before, that Naruto's ever faced. So it would seem like they're trying to tell us that Tonari is stronger than Kaguya by that statement. But if you actually put it into context, I don't fucking see it. Like, Tonari doesn't do... He does a lot in terms of the overall level of characters in the series. Like, he's more impressive than Zabuza by a fucking long shot. But, I mean, Kaguya? I just don't see it. I don't even know how he's getting to her. Setting aside, like, even if we assume that Kaguya stays with him in whatever dimension and doesn't just try to like BFR him, the battlefield removal him, and dump him off in like the fucking sea of acid and then just leave, right? Like, I don't know. Anyway, Dr. Strangle says, I've literally seen people try to make up stuff like meta speed, a speed that is outside normal space and time, instead of just admitting that, okay. Okay, yeah, you gotta give people points for creativity. I mean, that is creative, but like, I don't know. Are people really looking at like Goku running along Snake Way and then being told exactly how much time that's taken, and then seeing the exact same amount of time pass in the real world, and then being like, no, Goku is moving in like a completely different version of time? Like, I don't really. Do we really think that that was Toriyama's intention? Is that really what? I don't know. That seems like a lot of fucking work to me. But Ryoman says, I just put into question how much of the timeline Toneri's statement applies to. It could only mean strongest at the time, for example, because strongest on its own doesn't really mean much. Yeah, I don't even know if it's worth taking super seriously. Like, can I even like find it? Like, Toneri's strongest opponent or something, right? Is it literally this? Yeah, it's this one. It just says the strongest enemy, Toneri Otsutsuki. Like, I don't personally know, like, feel like giving this any credence. Like, okay, whatever. A shocking and exciting story, if you say so, is swirling around a key person. Like, okay, come on. This is just a piece of promotional material. We don't need to take this seriously. We don't need to take it literally for power scaling purposes. It's like, yeah. I don't know. Naruto doesn't... I don't think Naruto has Sage of Six Paths powers. He definitely doesn't have his fucking... what do you call them? The Gudodama, the Truth Seeker orbs during that fight with Toneri. Kurama is like fighting the golem and he's fighting Toneri on his own. And so I don't know that he compares to Kaguya, just based on the feats that we see in that fight. It's a cool fight, you know, he does some impressive shit, but I don't think peak Naruto is fighting him. And remember, Naruto and Sasuke and Sakura briefly and DMS Kakashi all had to gang up on Kaguya to seal her, let alone kill her. Granted, Black Zetsu was there and was giving her like tactical advice or whatever. Like, maybe you could argue that she's kind of a doofus and she wouldn't have done as well solo. But yeah, I mean, like, I would never use something like that as the core of an argument. My cat's freaking out. Anyway, strongest at the time, yeah, that makes sense. Strongest on its own doesn't really mean much. Yep. Yeah, exactly. He could be the strongest enemy in the world alive at that time, and Kaguya is just sort of out of the picture, so she doesn't count, right? You could interpret it that way. Saria says, did I say Saria? I meant to say Kaguya. Saria says, kids don't matter. Stronger is all that matters. Yeah, that's a Dragon Ball. That's a Dragon Ball statement. Most of the people that Naruto fights are stronger than him, but he still wins. Like, that's the thing. Naruto's victories have never really been about him dominating the opposition. He is the underdog, like, throughout most of the fights that he fights against. I mean, Pain kicked his ass. Like, Pain was vastly stronger than him. I think we still need to have this stream because there's still people who don't quite get this, but like, Pain fucked him up. He would have had no chance if he fought on his own, and if Pain were bloodlusted, fucking zero, negative opportunity. Like, but he still managed to pull the victory out. He was arguably weaker than Kiba. Kiba was fucking him up for a while. He was weaker than, well, he was like basically on par with Sasuke in part 1, you know, at the end of part 1, but he was on par with, no, like, Gaara was way stronger than him too. Without Gamabunta, he would have fucking died for sure. And so, I mean, like, granted, you could argue that he wasn't using his full strength because of Kurama, and that blah blah blah, Gamabunta is actually one of his jutsu, semantically speaking, right? You could challenge what I'm saying for sure. It's not gospel or anything, but consistently, the coolest fights for me in Naruto are the ones in which he is going up against somebody who should, by all rights, just be sweeping him, and he just finds a solution anyway. Like, Neji is the whole point of the fucking fight with Neji and everything is that, you know, Neji is the person who's destined for greatness, and or like to be a prodigy or whatever, and Naruto is not, and you need to stay in your place and just accept that you suck. And Naruto proves him wrong, even though Neji is stronger, by basically like sucker punching him. And again, you could challenge that by saying, okay, well, he used Kurama's chakra, and that makes him stronger than Neji. Sure, like there are ways to debate it, but there were definitely times in that fight where Naruto was getting handled, but he still pulled out a victory, and that's cool. That's what's cool. Like personally, I don't like characters who can just like effortlessly sweep the battlefield and annihilate everything in front of them. Sometimes that's cool for like a catharsis, or if you do something kind of special with it, like One Punch Man. But in Naruto, that's never really been the point to me. You could debate me on it if you like, though. The statement says, strongest enemy, not strongest ever. You could argue that it's obvious because the only other enemy in the last are his puppets, but that factor... Oh, I see. You're saying it's like the strongest of the enemies that are present in that story specifically. That makes sense. But the fact remains that still exists, and the statements sometimes still talk about things that are obvious. Yeah, my problem is that people take that statement literally and are like, Toneri is stronger than Kaguya just because it says that on the paper. I'm like, shut the fuck up. No. Dr. Strangle says, it's a million mile snake way, and we get a time it takes for him to cross it, but there's not time or distance in the afterlife. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're going to do one more. I think this one is going to be really quick because then we can move on to some of the other explanations. This is the meme one. This is the one that everybody knows. Right? So this will be coming as no surprise to anybody. But there's one final statement. That final statement that I want to go over is there is a technique used by a certain person in a certain part of the series. And I've edited the name of the technique a little bit so it says, technique, but we'll go and look up the specific thing. But let's just say that the statement is the fierce technique, the fierce jutsu, the fierce attack. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to shout there. I think I clipped my mic. My bad. The fierce attack that blows the entire universe away. The fierce attack that blows the entire universe away. So again, think about this for a second. Who do you think it is? Who do you think... I'll give you a hint. It's part 2. It's Ship It In. Who do you think in part 2 has an ability that can blow the entire universe away? And should we look at this from a... Yeah, you guys got it right away. Yeah, everybody knows about this one already. From a power scaling standpoint, does it make sense to assume that this is literal and that she could blow away a universal amount of energy or space for power scaling reasons? Or does it make more sense to be a little bit skeptical towards it and say she could blow away any one individual regardless of their strength? Or maybe does it make more sense to say that it's just like hyped up, right? So let's go take a look. You guys have all seen this before, but just for... I love this guy's name, Emotional Rockfish. But yeah, let's just read through it. The fierce tornado that blows the entire universe away. With her fan in hand, Temari creates a sudden gust and from a distance eliminates any enemies that stand in her way. As a talented woman, almost completely untouchable, she discovers Shikamaru's potential as a foundation of the next generation amidst the grueling battle, and she decides to create a new ninja world alongside him. As a pillar of support for the Kazekage and as Gaara's sister, she leads the shinobi of the allied forces. So again, let's just try and take this whole thing literally one thing at a time, right? Like, if you take this literally, you could incorrectly come to the conclusion that she's leading the entire shinobi allied forces, which she doesn't, right? She leads a part of them, but she's not leading the entire force herself. You can also look at this and say that she's like nearly untouchable, almost completely untouchable. So that would scale her like vastly up in the series. Fierce tornado that blows away the entire universe. I mean, the term fierce is like sort of anthropomorphizing tornado anyway, so that can't be taken literally. Creates a sudden gust from a distance, blah, 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 right? So, like, some of this stuff can be taken literally. If she wants to create a new ninja world alongside him, please, for the love of God, don't look at something like this and be like, create a new ninja world so she's planetary, because it says create a world. Like, I'm sure nobody here would actually do that, but I'm not sure that applies to everybody in to the community. La la la, I can't hear you, it's literal. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean to slander the objectively universal Temari out here, right? This is how you can tell I'm just here to start shit, because I'm clearly going against the well-established Temari universal meta. So my bad for wasting your time. Yeah. So all that is just to say, as you go through the data books, I would like to encourage anybody listening to this to think about the three statements that we went over. Because I think if you told anybody that Temari was universal, or Temari was universal, they would laugh in your face. If you told anybody that fucking Tsunade was universal, they would laugh in your face. However, if you were to say that Kurama was planetary, most people will be like, yeah, that seems fair, seems reasonable, right? Based on these statements. So why is that? Why do we have a bias towards one sort of statement or another? And I think that basically the reason is that on the one hand, you have a statement that very clearly and obviously contradicts with what we already know about the character and doesn't make sense intuitively, instinctually almost, within the series. And then on the other hand, you have something that does seem to basically fit in. But the problem, there's kind of two layers of the problem. The first layer is that if you don't go and fact check it, you can still come to the wrong conclusion, because it might still be hyperbolic or non-literal. And two, and this is the bigger thing for power scalers, because like thinking that fucking Kurama could wind up destroying the world eventually is not like at all like crazy, especially for the position of a casual reader. The problem is when you then like just semantically like slice and dice that up and just go, well, it says world, therefore planet, therefore planetary, therefore etc etc. And that is my finding with the light speed stuff, is that people will be like, you know, the water fang bullet is light speed. Well, I don't think it is. Well, you know, Haku is objectively light speed because it says so in the data books, so it makes sense that like Itachi would be light speed too. But that doesn't make sense that Kakashi would be light speed. Oh, but the Kirin is light speed too. Well, that doesn't really make any sense because it says it's natural lightning. Yeah, but when you think of the fact that like the Raikage has a lightning-based ability and he's the speed of light, well, that makes sense anyway. So the fact that the Raikage is objectively light speed validates all these other things, right? And then you just kind of like keep going around and it's like, well, this makes sense, well, this makes sense. And then you kind of come back all the way around. And it just keeps going around in like this big circle where anytime you challenge one of these points, it's like, well, it wouldn't make sense for the Light Fang to not be the speed of light, because we already know that Naruto is the speed of light, because we already know that Minato was the speed of light, because he clashed with the Raikage, and we already know that the Raikage is the speed of light, because we know that the Lariat is the speed of light, and we know that the Lariat is the speed of light because it literally says so in the data books, and it wouldn't make sense for that not to be true because it fits in with other characters like Kakashi, and we know that Kakashi is the speed of light, right, etc., etc. And it just keeps going and going and going. But like, if you actually stop to examine each one of those things along the way, they start to crumble and they start to fall apart if you apply this literal power scaling ass interpretation to it, which is why I wanted to go through that little exercise. So the next section here is going to be much more rapid fire. I just wanted to point out a couple of other fun examples. Some of these, if you see my Itachi versus Pain video, some of these are already in there. Others are more like other things that I've reference. So these are just for fun to kind of go over some other examples. I'm repeating myself. Well, let me check the chat real quick. Ryoman says, I debated Temari being universal in the past. Oh no. What was your argument? I see you said you used a different argument. I would love to know what arguments you used. Please let me know. Non-derogatory. I'm not trying to make fun of you. I'm just like, I find it a very spicy topic. So let me know what you think. Dr. Strangle says, you're just going against the will of the author. No, buddy. you can't say that because death of the author and death of the author. So you can't know what the will of the author is, so you can't challenge me on anything I say. I can arbitrarily say that the will of the author is anything I want, and if you say that I'm wrong, well, that's just like your opinion, man. And opinions are... So we both just have opinions, which means I win somehow. Anyway, okay, so no, You guys are gonna kill me. No, not gonna kill Kishimoto. Kishimoto nearly worked himself to death, making this beautiful manga for us to have like petty pissy arguments over. I think the man has suffered enough. He's earned some fucking rest. Okay, so feel free to, if you're watching this back, feel free to pause here if you want and look at these names. You can go look these things up in the Databooks yourselves, but I think it'd be fun to check out a couple other examples of silly things from some of the Databooks. And specifically, again, not to just look at these and be like, ha ha ha, these are so stupid and this is why I'm right. And more just to be like, again, like try this exercise out on your own. Try to interpret it as literally as possible and then try to interpret it from a skeptical perspective and see which of those you feel, without me telling you which one is the right one, see which one you feel leads you to a better understanding and a more accurate understanding. Right? So I think this one is actually in the second data book. Okay, so here's in the second data book. Toad mouth bind, kuchose gamaguchi shibari. This, if you don't remember, is when fucking Kisame and Itachi are going after Naruto, and Jiraiya shows up and he turns like the walls of the hotel into the frog. Okay, and to the belly of the frog rather. And the description reads, a threatening summon, the way down the belly of the toad. Nothing too weird about that. A peculiar technique of partial invocation that summons only an organ, the esophagus of the great toad from Mount Myoboku's rock dwelling, sending the enemy into his stomach. Everything's fine so far. If activated inside a building or cave, this trick can ensnare the enemy without them realizing it. In this interior, even the foothold is unreliable. The enemy finds themselves in a tight spot, having a hard time performing at their usual level of skill, and unable to find a proper response. So, overall, everything is just fine. This is an accurate description of the jutsu. It is totally on par with what we see. Now, it might be tempting if you were trying to argue for Jiraiya and hype him up as much as possible. I could see somebody being like, well, there is no way to respond to this because it says that the enemies cannot find a response, right? Therefore, it is an instant victory condition. And then if you meld it together with this, an inescapable otherworldly space, so it's inescapable, which means that it's also a one-shot kill move. Highly flexible and adhesive, the inside of the esophagus won't even allow liberty of movement. So, again, I hope we would all agree that the correct way to interpret this is not to do it literally, because if we do, it would imply that once Jiraiya gets this attack off, enemies not only can't escape it, they can't move freely, and they can't respond to it. So there's nothing that can be done. It's an instant victory. But of course, you might remember that Itachi gets out of it with one Amaterasu. Okay, so it's not even hard to get away from for him. Let alone anything Kisame might have been able to do. It's just ridiculous to say that Jiraiya has a universally containing sealing jutsu or something like that. You know what I mean? Let's see. Ryomen says, I use some statement for Tsunade being equal to Sakura in striking strength and argued that there's no proof that Sakura got stronger compared to earlier when she damaged Kaguya, so it's still skill Tsunade. Oh, I see. Okay. And then I created a chain to show Temari's AP Tsunade. Not directly, no. That's actually really creative. I like that. That's cool. I wouldn't necessarily agree with it, but it's a type of argumentation that I haven't heard before, and I like that. I like the kind of spicy, never before heard of arguments. That's really cool. I'm pretty sure Kishimoto is alive. This is okay, I'm glad. You had me worried for a second there. No, I gotcha. Ryomen said, I argued one of the Universal Plus things for Kaguya. Which one? I don't remember. Yeah. Well, feel free to, if you don't mind me getting a little, spicy is the word of the night. If you don't mind me getting a little spicy with you, feel free to hit me up with one of those, universal arguments for Kaguya. That's another, like, hobby horse of mine. Like, I am not a fan of universal Naruto arguments, but I'm always happy to talk about it because I love, like, whining about it. Sorry, it says, Death of the Author, news article. Man holds mangaka hostage, claims death of the author, and dares anyone to challenge his views. Yes. The, man gets hold of Kishimoto's live 4K footage of Kishimoto being alive and well, currently and stating out loud that Pain would beat Kakuzu and nonetheless claims that YouTube counts as an author because it's a distribution platform and therefore the stream is invalid and the statements from said streamer are invalid and everything's invalid and everything's a big reductio ad absurdum and nobody can talk about anything ever. And anyway. Do you think that Death of the Author applies at publication as no man steps in the same river twice? Yeah, just like lightning never strike the same place twice, right? I mean, we should have a discussion about Death of the Author at some point. It's one of those things where I think it's an interesting idea that I think kind of works in some contexts in theory, and it should work, but it also kind of doesn't. It's complicated. I have mixed feelings about it. Like, on the one hand, I think you should be able to pick up a book without knowing anything about the author and come to a conclusion about it. And if the author really, really tried really hard to, like, write a book that was pro-peace, but everybody who reads it, like everyone, comes to the conclusion that it's actually pro-war, well, maybe the guy fucked up. And maybe it kind of doesn't matter that that was his intention because he just, made a book that was completely contrary. Like, he was unable to communicate his intention to the world. However, if he comes forward and says, hey guys, this actually wasn't what I meant, please, like, go back and reread it and understand these things in context. If you genuinely want to understand the work and you genuinely want to understand the artist, I think it's important to also consider their intention and to try to get to know them as well. I don't think it's like artists tend to create in a vacuum. I don't think that people, like, you can get hired, like we were talking about this before, right? Like, you can get hired to do technical writing or whatever and not really put much of yourself into it. Get commissioned to be a ghostwriter or something, or like write some erotica for fucking $5 on Amazon, which apparently is quite lucrative if you find your niche. But at the same time, like, yeah, it's different. That's my argument for the night. It's just different. Let's take a, maybe we don't need to go through all these, but let's take a look at a couple more. So, prison and burial. Okay, this is a technique used by Gara, and I think it's the one that's used on Kimimaro, right? Let's just see what it says. The crushing sand swallows and sinks. Well, that's a fun fucking phrase to say. The crushing sand swallows and sinks. Ah, it's so fun to say. It's like ASMR. Granting perpetual rest into a sea of solid ground. The ground breaks and catches the enemy into a maelstrom of sand. The swallowed enemy sinks up to 200 meters underground, which is crazy, while completely unable to move a muscle. Then the sand glued onto their limbs applies pressure on their whole body, so they can't even twitch a finger when they are sent back to their maker. A bottomless sand inferno. Seized by his foothold into a vortex of sand, engulfed and dragged down to his death. There is no such thing as a jutsu that allows escape from the flow drawing towards the bottom of the earth. The enemy caught into the sand is similar to an puny insect plunged into an inescapable antlion's larva pit. So, again, which do you think makes more sense if we interpret this statement, bottomless sand inferno, literally, and say that Gara creates an endless abyssal chasm in the ground that can suck anything and anyone into it and basically sends them spiraling into the void for all eternity, or that it's hyperbole? Does it make sense for us to accept this as being literally true? There's no such thing as a jutsu that allows escape, because if this is true, then, like, Kamui couldn't get out of it. Like, Gara just fucks up Kamui. Like, Madara's truth-seeking orbs can't get away from it. Right? Like, there's no way, fucking Naruto, if he got caught in this, couldn't, like, reverse summon himself out. Because that counts as a jutsu. What else? Flying Raijin, right? You couldn't Flying Raijin yourself out of this either. Even in Edo Tensei couldn't get out of this, because that's technically a jutsu. So, I mean, I don't know how that would work anyway, but, like, that's the point, right? Now, you might say, oh yeah, well, this is obviously hyperbole. But again, the coming to a statement about something like Itachi being able to cut down any enemy with his sword. That statement about him being able to cut down any enemy with a Totsuka blade is coming from the same exact place, the same exact source, the same exact context that is also saying that Gaara creates an inescapable bottomless pit. And that says that Tsunade, what we said about her, and Jiraiya can create an inescapable toad prison thing, whatever. So the context surrounding these statements is also very important. The context is that these statements are consistently delivered in a way that is non-representative. They're not meant to be taken literally. It's not possible to take a statement like there's no such thing as a jutsu that allows escape from the flow, blah, 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 and to apply that to what actually happens in Gaara versus Kimimaro. It doesn't work. You cannot take a statement like that and apply that to the existence of jutsu like Flying Raijin and Kuchiyose and fucking Kamui. That statement doesn't work in the universe that those other things inhabit. And so the more statements you find like this, the more you go through the data books and the more times you come across things like this, it just consistently paints a picture where the data books are not reliable, right? At least in the jutsu descriptions, at least when it comes to this stuff. I think that there was something here. I wanted to look here real quick. Might Guy, the greatest taijutsu user in Konohagakure, the essence of his taijutsu is concentrated in this spinning back kick. He spins with such speed that not a single person... Okay, like here, right? You could look at this and be like, oh, well, this is just clearly something that's hyped up. This is just a mistake. This is a mistranslation. Come up with whatever explanation you want. The very next entry, he spins Guy, and this is part 1, pre-Shippuden Guy. And it doesn't even say that he's using the gates. I'd have to go and actually look at where this happens. I think it's during Konoha Crush to see when he actually does use this, if he's using the gate. But I don't think so, but we could check. Might Guy, the greatest taijutsu user in Konohagakure. The essence of his taijutsu is concentrated in spinning back kick. He spins with such speed that not a single person. So, like, Kaguya and Madara and Obito and Pain and Kisame and Kakuzu and KCM2 Naruto and Minato, none of them, Hagoromo, can follow this guy. It's not possible for a single person to follow him. It's not. It's just impossible, right? So Guy can't be tracked. And this technique is actually faster and better than the fucking Sekizo, or whatever it's called, when he uses Night Guy, because Madara did perceive that coming towards him. So Guy's a fucking idiot, and he should have just used this against Madara, because Madara wouldn't have been able to follow his movement, right? Or it shouldn't be taken literally. Right? I'm sorry. I forgot this. His speed lets no one escape. His strength cannot be blocked, no matter how gigantic a body they have. Anyone who gets hit by this kick, even once, will not be getting back up. Universal AP, inescapable speed, unblockable strength. I'm sorry, but part 1 Guy solos the verse. And if you don't believe me, then you're just playing the skeptic. You're being skeptic. Not being skeptical, you're being skeptic. Alright? And you're just being regressive to power scaling itself. And honestly, frankly, I don't even want to talk to you. I want to talk about nothing else. Obviously, I'm joking, but hopefully you see my point. I thought there was another one here. Anyway, so at this point, I don't know if we have to go through all of these, but I want to take a look at a couple more. Let's actually skip ahead to... I'm going to do Great Fireball and Demonic Mirroring Ice Crystals, because those are going to be important. So, here we go. Oh, sorry. Let me catch up on chat a little bit. Dr. Strango says to Saria, Kishimoto, please let me and my family go. I will give you all my money, hostage taker. No, that's not what this is about. Pulls out a phone with Discord. Look at this. I'm right about this argument, right? Please. Yeah, you have to jump in. Fucking get on the stage. I'll ask the mod to let you on. You have to explain to them why Kaguya is not multiversal. I don't even know what that means. But I argue... It's just really funny. Ryoman says, well, I'd mainly argue Universal Plus thing to glaze some female characters that I simp to. It ain't that deal. Oh, that's okay. I mean, the female characters in Naruto don't get enough, like, we were talking about this last time about Sakura, right? Like, I feel like they deserve more screen time, more attention, more getting, like, fleshed out in terms of uh, their characters and stuff like that. So, yeah. Kaguya is really, like, I would probably have a crush on her if she was like in the same universe. Maybe not in terms of the fact that she was committing like genocide against humanity. That's not my favorite thing. But assuming like a good version of her who would prefer to just like hang out and like feed cats and stuff, go on hikes, then yeah, she's kind of cool looking. Dr. Strangle says, John the Man, have you never heard of the saying, no man steps in the same river twice, as it's not the same man, it's not the same river? No, I actually haven't. I suppose I should have just asked you for an explanation there. No, I've never heard of that before. But I guess that kind of makes sense. Yeah. Can you elaborate on that, actually, on what, where you were going with the death of the author? Do you mean that, like, after an author releases their work, they're no longer the same person because they have gone through the process of creating that work, and that in and of itself like changes them? I remember, I think it was Kevin Smith or something who was saying that like people kept wanting him to go back and like make another Clerks movie, like the very first one that he ever made, and he's just not able to do it because he's not the same person. That movie exists because he was able to tap into that particular time and the particular mind frame that he was in, and you can't just like go recapture that, right? So that might make sense. Saria says, oh, Ryoman says base guy has underrated speed, kept up with White Mask Obito in close range. That's true. That's fair to say that he's underrated, yeah. Saria says, I think a lot of people just don't understand death of the author and just how the term, or just throw the term around because a lot of power scalers don't read. It's just terrifying when they do media analysis. Why would you need to read to talk about manga? All you need to do is just ask ChatGPT to pull up a random quote for you and you're good. Dr. Strangle says, the goat guy. Goat guy. Death of the author means that the intent of an author does not invalidate alternative readings of their work as long as those readings are supported by details within the text. Scalers use it weird. Oh, yeah. That's probably the best definition I've seen in a long time. Scalers, in my experience, tend to use it to just say, like, you are not allowed to interpret the manga in any sort of creative way or the art in any sort of creative way. However, I have found something that I can quote specifically, and because I am now quoting it specifically, I win, basically. Whereas your opinion is just opinion, and my opinion is actually factually based, so. Alright. Darth Magog says, Skeptic. Oh, hey, Darth Magog, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good weekend. I saw your video about the ground vehicles. I haven't had a chance to watch through it all yet, but it's going to be on my list. Glad to see you making content. You got a lot of stuff coming out. That's awesome. Hope you're doing well. Like the little hearts with... Are they Wi-Fi hearts? That's cute. Yeah, I'm glad you're here too, Darth. Darth Magog says, sorry I'm late. I just had a birthday for one of my nephews. Oh yeah, no worries. You're never under any obligation. If and when you stop by, we are always happy to have you. If you can't make it for whatever reason, that's never any problem, I promise. But yeah, happy birthday to your nephew. I hope you guys are having a good time, having fun. Did you guys have a party? Did you do anything special for the big day? Ryoman says Kaguya kind of hot. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. She has a very like kind of alluring, piercing, like slightly scary look to her. I don't like the the genocide thing. That's a bit of a deal breaker for me. But yeah, Sakura, I don't really like her. Yeah, I liked her in part one. I liked her personality, and like she's a real badass when she goes up against Sasori and stuff like that. She has her moments, but I don't think we would get along really. Like I don't really feel any kind of connection with her personality wise. It's just I respect her accomplishments as a fighter, and as like I respect her courage and her strength and dedication and stuff like that she exhibits in her good moments. And then I think it's sort of unfortunate that Kishimoto put her on the back bench for so much of the series. But yeah. Um, Dr. Strangle said more that after publication, the author continues to change, and they are now in the same boat of the audience as their opinion is just a later interpretation. Interesting. Yeah, because they're now kind of reflecting on the work that another person has created because they're no longer the same person. That's a really interesting. I'm gonna have to think about that. Like I haven't produced a piece of work like that. Honestly, like the Itachi versus Pain video is the closest thing to like a work of art. Not to sound pretentious or whatever, but the closest thing to a work of art that has like my stamp that it's something that I created from the ground up and like I made everything. You know, obviously, like I've taken like absorbed arguments from other places, and it's not like every thought I had in there was purely original or some shit like that, right? But it's like I crafted it to be the thing that I wanted it to be, to express my own views on the thing. And I haven't really released a whole lot of stuff like that. Like working in the games industry, I've done, you know, I've put games out there, and some of the games had really small teams, and so I was like a big part of the creative direction of the overall thing. But never anything quite as personal as making a book like that. And when I go back and listen every once in a while to parts of my older videos, and I've listened back to like the Kakuzu versus Pain video, and like largely speaking, I agree. But also like my voice sounds a little bit different, and some things I'm like really, I really said that, I really wrote that down, and I don't think I would do that anymore. I think it wouldn't occur to me now to write things and say things that way. It's really weird. It was just a couple of years ago, but it still feels like a different, I don't know. Like I wouldn't make that same video the same way. If somebody was like, the video got deleted and you need to remake it because reasons, it wouldn't come out the same, you know? So. Your Itachi versus Pain video is my timeline video for Tears of the Kingdom. Oh, sweet. Wait, hang on. Have I seen your timeline video for Tears of the Kingdom? I saw your tier list of all the different Zelda games. I need to make sure that I watch that if I haven't yet. I apologize if I haven't seen it yet. Or is that what you're working on now? I'm sorry, I forgot. But I want to know more about that. If I haven't seen it yet, please remind me. And if you're still working on it, then fuck yeah, I'm super stoked. I know I saw your tier list where you were going through like all the different games, and then I think you were talking about, like we talked before about the like how strong is the Hero of Time, and there were a couple more that we talked about as well, but I don't remember the Tears of the Kingdom specifically. But I'm excited about it. He had a big party with the neighborhood kids. Awesome. Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm really glad to to hear that. Saria says, I don't like the genocide thing. We all have our quirks, John. This is a Ninjago reference. I'm not in support of genocide. That's sorry if I'm being a little too prejudiced, you know, but yeah, everybody has their deal breakers. For me, like absorbing the entire population into like weird pods and turning them into just odd social I don't know, plant humans. It's just like a little too much for me. Ryoman says, I agree that Sakura scales to fuck me. I agree that Sakura scales to Kaguya's durability, but I disagree with it being a speed feat that makes it relative to Kaguya. Oh yeah, I would agree with that too. I think like at some point we should do like a live reaction to at least parts of the debate between Swag Kage 6, fucking Kabuki, and Afro Senju, and talk about the Sakura arguments there. But like, yeah, I mean, if you read that fight, it's pretty clear that she's obviously strong enough to withstand an impact with Kaguya, break her horn or like bruise her or whatever, and so, you know, not receive damage herself. But Kaguya is flying up into her, so like the velocity that Kaguya has is summing with the downward velocity that Sakura is generating, and she's also not paying attention to her. And I know that you know, that people say, okay, she has a Byakugan, she's merged with nature, she has 360-degree vision, blah blah blah. But I do agree that that doesn't mean that you can perceive everything around you if you're not focusing on it, right? So like, can't believe I'm about to say this, but I actually agree with Noodles on something, and I like one of the analogies he used in the Swag versus in his debate with Swag on Itachi versus Pain, he used this analogy of like a Call of Duty. There's a perk in one of the Call of Duty games which paints enemies on your radar and enhances your vision so you can see enemies all around you. But if you don't pay attention to the radar, then you're not going to know that they're there. So even though your perception is enhanced, it doesn't matter if you're not cognitively focusing on that. So no, like Kaguya very clearly was just like in her own feelings, like thinking about, should I take him to this dimension? No, that's no good. Maybe I'll take him to the other one. And then she did notice Sakura as she got close. So Sakura was fast enough to like maneuver within range, but also at that point she was kind of in a pincer movement. Kaguya was. She had just gotten slashed by DMS Kakashi, and she was being pincered by Sasuke and Naruto, who were about to seal her. She was flying up, and then like Sakura kind of came from, if not her blind spot, then at least from a vulnerable position, right? So I would not say that she got speed blitzed. I'd say that she got maybe outpaced while distracted, and I think that's fair. That feels fair. But yeah, on topic, since we're talking about Databooks, John, how do you reconcile disparities between on-screen feeds and Databook entries? Yeah, we've been talking about that. We're going to keep talking about this, but generally speaking, the thesis of this evening is like Databooks are useful and fun, informative references, but they are not meant to be taken literally, or at least if you take the jutsu descriptions literally, and in particular the stuff in bold literally, it is probably going to inaccurately represent what's happening. The manga is our primary source, and if you put these statements into context, they often don't work if you interpret them literally and apply like a literal power scaler's interpretation. So let's just take a minute, and then I will go through the rest of the chats as well. But let's just read this. This is from the first Databook Jutsu entry, and this is from Sasuke's Great Fireball technique. And the first thing that is written is the massive flame engulfs and vaporizes everything, right? So let's just read the whole thing for context. A jutsu where the chakra needed inside the body is converted into fire and expelled forward in a massive orb of roaring flame. This all seems fine. The scope of the attack is altered by controlling the volume of chakra that's mustered. Okay, so you put more chakra into it, then it goes further. It has a wider range or whatever, that's fine. The blazes released with a thunderous roar will engulf their target and leave a crater on the ground surface. That's how terrifying they are. The hand seals to activate it are horse and tiger. Sasuke already has a skill to handle that advanced technique. Okay, so this, I think, tells you everything you need to know. Right? If we approach this and we try to, I just noticed this on the is happening on this. The fuck is this? Hang on, you can call it my ADD or whatever, but now I'm like hypnotized. Whatever the fuck is going. Oh, it stopped. I better close this before it starts again. This site is fucking cursed. I swear to God. But anyway. Sasuke uses his fireball technique to vaporize all toenails in the vicinity. No, but this this I think kind of tips the hand, so to speak. This kind of gives it away. Where the intention here is to create a fun, hype, entertaining, non-literal, interesting description of how the jutsu works. Maybe you get some very like specific scientific style information out of it, but for the most part, it's fun, right? It's meant to make the fireball jutsu seem terrifying. If you take this literally from a power scaling interpretation, it's ridiculous, because this would mean part 1 Sasuke has a fireball that has universal AP, possibly universal DC. And I know what you might be thinking is like, oh, it's ridiculous to take this statement out of context, and this statement is obviously like hyperbolic or whatever. But then we get to other things like, oh, the Susanoo's Totsuka blade, which I've been talking about a lot tonight, it can cut through anything, and the Yatamir can block any attack, and people will just accept that at face value. But it's coming from the same exact source as this statement. They're both coming from the same place. And we're just saying like, oh, well, this one is obviously right and the other one is obviously wrong. That's not going to ever get us to a correct, like a reliably solid, correct understanding of the series. So instead, we should take everything in context. We should examine things line by line, even though it takes longer. And when I do that, I find that consistently these statements are like kind of just for fun. I'm going to read chat, but in the meantime, I'm going to load up... what? Hang on. Really? Oh, these are the character things. Okay. Okay, we're gonna load this up, and then I'm gonna check real quick. Pain Siege. Oh, what? Okay, sorry. The thing that bothers me about Itachi versus Pain. Wait, I think I'm out of sorts here. One sec. Oh, I see. The thing that bothers me about Itachi versus Pain, the debate, not your video, is that no one ever says it's a fucking close fight. Yeah, I think I tried to acknowledge that in my video. I know you're not, like, critiquing me or whatever, but I did try to kind of mention that in my video at one point, that I think it's okay to believe that either person wins. Like, I don't think it has to be like a landslide for either person. I think the victory conditions for Itachi are probably going to be the Totsuka Blade and the Tsukuyomi, if you can pull it off. And I think, Pain, the victory condition will have to be getting in within close range without getting sniped by those things, and using a soul pull or something like that. I think Shinra Tensei will be a useful tool, but I think Itachi's smart enough to figure out his way around it. And I think ultimately it's going to be like a combination of different things that just keeps putting pressure on him. But yeah, there are pros and cons to both characters. I think overall, Nagato, like prime Nagato, like just consolidated in his own body, like having recently absorbed chakra, just is more of a nightmare to deal with than Itachi himself overall. But that doesn't mean that Itachi couldn't still pull a victory out. There are win conditions for both, and I think that's totally fine to look at it that way. I would be curious if you want to elaborate on your position one way or the other, and the same thing with you, Ryomen, if you want to talk more about it. I mean, like, I prefer Pain, but like I think there are probably strong arguments either way. You lean towards Pain over Itachi. Myself, yeah, but I'm thinking Pain loses 3 or 4 paths in the process. Yeah, it also, I think the fight goes very differently if it's the 6 paths as opposed to just Nagato in his own body as well. It could be a very different fight. Saria says, it's my where do the Wild Era games take place, and does Tears of the Kingdom break the lore videos? I consider them just one video. I kind of want to take them down and merge them into one big video. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I don't think I've seen those yet, and I will correct that over the course of the coming week. Yeah, I want to see your work, so thank you for reminding me, so to speak. Ryomen says, I listened to Spencer versus D1 on Sakura versus Madara recently and gave my analysis in the comment. Oh, cool. Yep, I will add that to the list as well, Spencer versus D1. I tried to look up, I thought you said that there was a debate last time on Noodles on Sasuke versus Lee or something like that. I tried to find that, but I couldn't find that, unfortunately. Let me see. You said what? Spencer D1 Sakura Madara. D1. Okay, just wrote that down on my phone for later. On Spencer's channel, Third Eye debates Madara versus Sakura versus Battle debates. That one. I think I might have seen that before, but it's been a while, so I'll take a look at it. But yeah, that should be fun. Yeah, I was looking for that Noodles debate and I wasn't able to find it. I found like there's like Archie or something who had a debate on Lee versus Sasuke, or Lee versus Neji, and there was another one. There's a couple that I found, but like people started yelling at each other immediately, and I can't really deal with that. Noodles versus D1 in Big 2024. Okay, I'll take a look at that. Yeah, thank you. I'm surprised that he was debating him that recently. Oh, I see. It's on Hyde's channel. I see. Okay. Yeah, because I've watched most of Noodles, or I've listened to most of Noodles' debates. At least I thought I had. So I was surprised that I hadn't heard about that one. I don't know if I'm ready to to dive back into the fucking Noodles maelstrom. My ears are so relieved to not have to listen to him for the past few months, but I'm morbidly curious. I don't think I can I don't think I can keep myself away. I think it was like Steven didn't was that the video where Spencer said he was gonna sell D1's mother into indentured servitude or something? Because if that's the case, I might skip it. But yeah. Dr. Strangle said, I think it was like Stephen King or someone who asked about a weird part of one of their old books and said, I don't know what that scene means. I was highway It's kind of funny. I feel like most of like System of a Down's discography is that, honestly, and I love that band. Ryoman says I actually judged it for D1. Oh, cool. Which is funny because for an average person, the debate would look like a calm, intelligent guy destroying an aggressive, simple-minded opponent due to the way they talk. Yeah, sometimes that's how it goes down. I mean, like the Noodles versus Apollo debate was particularly funny because like Apollo seems pretty smart and he knows quite a bit about like debate terminology, and he had the better arguments. He like had the debate in control, like under his control, but oh my god, he just couldn't fucking help himself. He couldn't stop from being like, and yes, my intellectually inferior opponent here does not gesticulate correctly with the proper verbiage, emphasizing the intellectual proclivities of his argumentation. My interlocutor is so inferior that he resembles the cerebral fixture of a baboon. It's just like, shut up, just focus on the conversation. Oh my god. And like, not to be too critical or whatever, like Noodles has a very, like, he spends far more time, I think, figuring out how to get under people's skin and piss people off than he does and like actually understanding the argument. So I get it. I've been in a debate with him before. I know how frustrating it can be, but like Apollo seemed to really enjoy like fucking fucking with him from a perspective of like, oh, if my opponent weren't so fucking stupid, then maybe he could, it's just like, it's like, wow, okay, there's some history here. Clearly there was some history there, but it's a whole other can of worms. But yeah, what was it like to judge? I've never judged for a debate. I've only debated like a couple of times, and it didn't generally go well. So I'd be curious to know, did you feel like there was a lot of pressure on you to get the verdict right or whatever? I will be curious to know what you think. Dr. Strangle says databooks can be figurative, metaphorical, or hyperbolic, and sometimes they can straight up be wrong. Yes, 100%, 100%. Darth Magog says Dr. Strangle, sort of like Pokedex entries. I didn't know about that, actually. I guess I assumed that the Pokedex entries are all meant to be taken literally. Is that not the case? Are they kind of like... now, I'm really curious now, actually, because I just kind of... Yeah, I kind of think I made the same assumptions about the Pokedex that I used to about the databooks. Are they just kind of like more fanciful? I'd be very curious to know. Let's see. OMG, the Naruto databooks are just like the Pokedex of the ninja world. Oh shit, okay, you answered my question. We cracked it, boys. We solved the Naruto meta. Yes. So now I expect within the next how can I phrase this? I fully expect somebody to come out with like a physical handheld plastic Pokedex that has like all of the, like a bingo book, right? That has all of the characters in them on like an Amazon fucking Kindle or something that you can just tab through. And when they make like Naruto Go, like the Pokemon Go equivalent, we'll have one of those to help us out with or something. Naruto will never understand Mimikyu's pain. Is Mimikyu a Pokemon? I'm guessing so. Darth Magog says, well done, Doctor. I think we can get our Nobel Prize. Yes, prizes all around. Everyone gets a trophy. It's gonna be shaped like a fucking... Excuse me. It's gonna be shaped like a half-melted Sharingan. But I'll get them out to you within the next 6 to 8 years. Why is the scroll bar for Steam chats right next to the much bigger scroll bar for the whole YouTube page? Oh yeah, it's extremely frustrating. And I always have like the chat window, like 2 chat windows up. One is for YouTube, and the other one is for StreamerBot, which is what I use for the fucking like on-screen chat thing, because sometimes YouTube just like decides to censor things that that are completely fucking innocuous, and it just doesn't show up, and it'll show up in the other one. So again, like if I ever miss a message from you, 99% of the time it's gonna be because YouTube just like shoved it away, and I just forgot to look at the other window. But I have them both up, and I try to check them both regularly. So no. Sorry, my dog just freaked out. We have deer that come at night, and they steal all the fucking bird seed from the bird feeders, and when they show up, they knock the thing around and they scare the shit out of my dog. They're really cute, and I don't want to scare them away, but it's like I probably spent like $50 this week on fucking birdseed because I try to put not this week, or the past couple weeks, but like I try to put the bird seed out in the bird feeders because my cats love watching it. It's like TV for them. But then every night this goddamn deer come and they just like knock it over onto the ground. They make a shitload of noise. They scare my dog. They push me on the ground. They steal my lunch money. They eat my barbecue potato chips. Assholes, I swear to God. But let's see. Jessie is a mother and will defend her for... Okay. Crazy Team Rocket upscale. Why is the scroll bar? Yeah. Okay, let's see. I think Pain's more versatile, says Darth Magog, than Itachi. Yeah, I would agree with that. It'd be a long fight, and Nagato really has a lot more stamina than Itachi. That's a good point. So a battle of attrition favors him, the Chibaku Tensei, Soul Rip, and even the existence of the Predapath. Yeah, that's a good point. I think Itachi's strongest jutsu, like win conditions, probably involve the Susanoo. The problem with that is that when he's not an Edo Tensei, the Susanoo is like implied to do a lot of damage to him and consume a lot of chakra. Just be very painful to deal with. So if, like Itachi puts up the Susanoo and Pain managed to get the Predapath around and drains his chakra, Pain just has a massive boost and Itachi has just exhausted himself for nothing, right? So it's like, but then the question is, okay, well, can Pain get the Predapath to him before he gets like sliced? And if we take the statement literally that getting touched by the Totsuka blade puts you in a Genjutsu dream world, so like Pain cannot touch it, like he is unallowed to get in contact with it, then he basically has to find a way to get behind Itachi or something like that, like in a blind spot, and then drain the chakra as quickly as possible so that that blade doesn't fuck him up, which may be possible, but that's what I would say would be the like a win con leading more towards Itachi. But I'd probably pick Pain if I had a gun to my head, so to speak. Hope I don't. Itachi has some really devastating jutsu that bypass conventional durability, says Dr. Magog, and the Susanoo is cracked, but he seems to have less firepower than Pain, and also doesn't have many jutsu that bypasses the Predapath. Yeah. I wonder if he slashed at the Predapath and the Predapath raised his hand, would he be able to drain the chakra from the sword before it destroyed the Predapath? Like, assuming it was the path on its own, not just the ability inside Nagato's body. I would be curious to know what you guys think about that. Ryomen says Noodles defeated Apollo. Oh, okay, in the 2025 one. So yeah, I would be curious to know what you think about that. So I'll be straight up and say I don't think so. I don't think that Noodles won that one. If we're talking about the same one, there were two, right? There was one that was like 10 or 20 minutes, and then one that was like an hour, 20 minutes. The first one I could barely listen to because they got so hostile so fast, so I don't have any thoughts on that. The second one, if I remember correctly, Noodles' argument had something to do with like we could just assume that Kakuzu saw a Biju bomb go off because of the debris and like the level of destruction in the place where Kakuzu and Hidan fought Yugito, and then he was using that to say that Kakuzu, when he said he could resist any physical attack or whatever the phrasing was with the diamond morph, which he kept mistakenly calling diamond armor, but whatever, that this meant that Kakuzu could tank like Biju bombs basically, and that Pain didn't have anything on that level. It's something along those lines, right? If that was the one that we're talking about, then yeah, I don't. Despite the fact that Apollo was kind of a jerk throughout a whole lot of it, and despite the fact that he was, I don't know, at like some cookout or something, and there was a bunch of annoying ass noise in the background, I still do think that he had the better arguments. I don't think that Noodles was really able to really hold his position effectively. And then towards the end, if I remember correctly, he started getting like really upset and then just left because he kept cutting off Apollo, and then they kept like muting Noodles, and then Noodles was like, if you mute me one more time, I'm gonna leave. So I mean, he kind of like loses by forfeit. But to be fair, I understand, if you feel like someone is muting you unfairly, treating you unfairly, like you don't want to stand around and get like mistreated. So I understand, maybe why he got frustrated and left, but still, like, that you can't really call that a victory if you just fucking leave before conclusions. So, I don't know. obviously you can disagree with me, Roman. Like I have no problem with you disagreeing with me on any of that. That's totally fine. That's just like what I thought of it at the time. If you want to talk about it, I'm happy to. Dr. Strangle, I do not have a very high opinion of any of these guys. Yeah, me too. Yeah, or me either, rather. Rioman says, no, I meant that I judge. Oh, you judge it in a YouTube comment randomly. I posted it there. Wasn't an actual judge of a debate, but didn't know how to word it differently, you know. Yeah, that's totally fine. I'll check out the comment. I'll be on the lookout for it. Darth Magog says, look up Mark Cargo's entry. It's physically impossible for it to exist. Okay. Mark Cargo. This one? Mark Cargo, like escargot. Cute. I should probably look it up on the actual Pokedex, right? Wow, there's a lot of entries here. The shell on its back is just skin that is cooled and hardened. It breaks easily with a slight touch. Its brittle shell occasionally spouts intense flames that circulate throughout its body. Hot as lava and is always billowing. Wow, that he looks pretty happy for being like an incarnation of like infernal rage. Macargo. Am I looking at the right one? Macargo. Oh, Magcargo. Magcargo, yeah. Magcargo's body temperature 18,000 degrees. Water is vaporized on contact. If this Pokemon is caught in the raindrops instantly turn to steam. That's kind of cool. Shell is actually a skin that's sort of brittle and fragile. Just touching it causes it to crumble apart. Returns to its original size by dipping itself in magma. Damn. It's just very creative, I have to say. Oh, you said Pain can touch it? He fights with Itachi and Naruto in the war. Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't realize he actually like physically touched it. That's interesting. Cool. Does Naruto go imply enslaving? Wait, hang on. I don't understand this. Does Naruto go imply enslaving Naruto characters via genjutsu, capturing them in Zetsu cocoons? I think the idea for the Infinite Tsukuyomi, like part of it, is that human beings are wrapped up in the cocoons and then they're turned into white Zetsu, and so then they would be enslaved, right? They would be bound to Kaguya's will, presumably, or at least they would like lose their personalities from before. Is that what you're saying? I think that makes sense. Pain can touch it. Oh, yeah, we talked about that. Ryoman says, yes, I'm talking about that one. Okay, Noodles made some dumb points for sure, but I thought he had a major advantage in some. I just don't remember exactly. I just don't exactly remember them, except for if Kakuzu thought his durability claim was true, or if Kakashi one-shot Pain with the Chidori. Okay. Yeah, so the one-shot Pain with the Chidori thing is fascinating to me because I debated Noodles about this like a year or two ago, I forget, and we went through the fight together, and I explained to him like why that's false, why that you can't make that argument, because what happens is, and we could talk about this separately, but like, Kakashi makes a lightning clone, and then the lightning clone gets pierced through by the Asura Path's tail, and then the Asura Path gets like shocked by it and it's held in place, and then the Choji and Choza come in and punch the Asura Path from above and smash it into the ground and break its tail and like scuff it up a bit, and then Kakashi's like dashing forward at the Tendo Path, and then the what the hell is it called? The Asura Path jumps in front of them, and Kakashi like jabs his Raikiri into the Asura Path's chest, and the Asura Path is like, ha 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 ha, I fucking stopped your attack, idiot, verbatim stated. And then Kakashi's like, I hope I make it in time, and then pushes forward even more. And when he pushes forward more, like the Asura Path's head pops out, and then Pain uses a Shinra Tensei on the Asura Path that is in between him and Kakashi's Raikiri and blows everybody away. And then the Asura Path is on the ground, and it's like, I can fire one more missile, you pitiful creatures, whatever, and fires one off at Choji, and then it dies, right? So the sequence of events is a lightning clone into a punch, into a Raikiri, into a Shinra Tensei, and then the missile thing. So that whole sequence is what ultimately kills the Asura Path. It's factually incorrect to say that he was one shot by the Raikiri, because he got shot by multiple things, more than one. So that's That's basically it. What I would say. Let's see. Oh, I'm catching up on the Macargo stuff. Mag cargo. Sorry, I keep saying Macargo. um, This one is and about Bijou. Oh yeah. We actually we did a stream about that. If you'd be interested in seeing it. I don't know. It's a big ask to go back and like watch some of the older stuff. I know, but like, it should be under the live section. It should be. It says something like a control, like who's in control, right? Let me see. It was. Where was it? I might have to look it up afterwards. It's one that has like Obito on the cover. Yeah, this one over here. So this one from 7 months ago. This was a breakdown of my thoughts on the Noodles versus Apollo debate. And it's pretty long, so I don't expect anybody to like go through the whole thing or anything. But we did specifically talk about like whether or not Obito was fully in control at the time. And there's some information in here about specifically when Obito like commands the Jinchuriki, he uses a specific hand seal that is also used by people like Deidara when he's like blowing up his clones and some other things I can't remember. Like I think maybe Shadow Possession. There's a couple other things that I mentioned in there that to me does indicate that he was in control. Yeah, Noodles keeps making this, like has made for years, this consistent argument that like Obito can't control the Akatsuki at all, the Jinchuriki at all ever, because they immediately start like freaking out on him. But he's standing right here with all of them right fucking there. Like they travel with him in lockstep, like all the way to the battlefield, and they listen to what he says. The only time any of them like rebels against him is specifically Kokuo, the big like dolphin horse looking one. But then he immediately like slams him down to the ground, puts chakra chains on him, and then regains control, and then brings out like multiple other Bijou and controls them all at the same time too. So Noodles has this really, really bad habit where he will just look for one specific thing, and it's not just him. It's like a kind of a consistent problem with I'm sure I've done this too. It's just like a mistake that people can make. It's not just him, but like finding a very particular, very specific thing that supports his argument at the time, and then being like, look, this is objectively true out of context, therefore I win. And then the rest of his argument is just based on like distracting other people from and shooting people down if they try to contest that one thing. And as long as he can hold on to that one thing by the end of the debate, then he thinks he can like win, I guess. But at the end of the day, like, no, that's not how you understand a story. That's not how you understand characters, by just like picking one tiny little sliver and pretending like you understand it and then just like clinging to it desperately. That doesn't work. It'll work if the other person doesn't understand the story and is willing to give you like fair what do you call it, like benefit of the doubt. Like when I ironically, because we're talking about the Lightspeed stuff, when I quote unquote debated him at one point, I just conceded that like characters, including like that what's his name, like Sage Mode Naruto versus Pain, I conceded that he was Lightspeed, because at the time everybody in the Discord at the time was all saying that like, yeah, he's obviously Lightspeed, he's totally Lightspeed. And the general consensus of the community seemed to be that Naruto characters are Lightspeed anyway. And I just didn't know. I hadn't done any research into it. And so I was like, okay, well, everybody here already seems to agree with this, so I'm not going to like fight you about this. If you all say that he's Lightspeed, I'm going to just, you know, give that to you because it's not my main point anyway. And that was a big fucking mistake. It became like a problem, you know, later in the debate. So anyway, I'm getting way off topic here, but it's fun to talk about. I like talking about the shit, so whatever. Yeah, I hope I understand. Oh, Naruto Go as in Pokemon Go, so I made the comparison. Sorry, yes. So yeah, the goal for Naruto Go is going to be we all go around and find other people with their phones, and then we engage in a Sharingan clash. And if they lose, or like a Rinnegan class, if they lose, then they become white Zetsus and get a sword in the tree. And then like, this is probably deeply concerning and unethical, but did your school ever do, oh my god, wait, hang on a second. I'm just now realizing how fucked up this is, that I'm about to say this. Did your school ever have a slave auction? Wait. It's not okay. So I am just now, like, however many years later, realizing how fucking weird this was, and I have no idea why we did this. But at my school, um, the administration allowed and supported this thing where, like, you could, as like a member of the student body or whatever, you could auction yourself off as a quote unquote slave for the day. And it was for charity, right? It was for charity. It was for good cause. It was like for local, like a homeless shelter or something like that, right? But basically, what you would do is you would get up on stage and you would be like, "Hi, look at me. Who wants me for the day? I'll be your slave." And then, like, the person, somebody in the audience would be like, "Oh, I'll spend $5." The next person would be like $10. So usually, what it was, right, is like the popular kid would get up there, and like all the girls would be like, "Ooh, let's get him for the day," and then like vice versa, right? And so, I did not participate one way or another, but then, the 10, 15, $20, however much seemed like a lot at the time, would go into the donation box, and then that person would be the quote-unquote slave for the day, and they would have to do whatever the other person said within limits, of course. I mean, this was like middle school, high school, whatever it was, but it was like, "Oh no, I dropped all of my books on the ground. You need to pick them all up and organize them. Oh, thank you. Oh, whoops, I just dropped them again," right? Like, basically, the whoever purchased quote unquote the other person would then be like making them miserable for the rest of the day. And now that I think, at the time it was just normal because everybody just did it, but now that I think about it, it's incredibly fucked up. And I have no idea how far things went because I was never like paying attention to it, because I was never gonna be on the auction block anyway. Does anybody know what the fuck I'm talking about? Please tell me that it was just like my one school and then nobody else did this. Bachelor auction, maybe. That phrase sounds familiar, but it wasn't just like, it was like, "You will do my chores." Like, they would go around and like do the person who got bought or whatever would do the other person's homework and like clean up their lunch tray, and like the person walking in front of them would like throw trash on the ground and they would pick it up and like throw in the garbage for them. It was weird, man. But I turned out fine. Clearly. Anyway. Fuck, I'm so so behind. Let me go back up. Talking about that one, Beach in the War. Yeah, so feel free to go check that out, Real Men, and feel free to hit me up. I don't know if you're in the Discord, I forget, but if you'd like to, I can send you a link to be. I would send you an invite. Be happy to hang out and chat about any of this stuff. Yeah, Darth, it was really weird. I'm glad I never really did like participated in it. I don't know what the fucking point of it was at all. I don't even know why I thought of that. Oh yeah, because I was gonna be like, with the Naruto Go thing, like if you manage to win the clash, the Rinnegan clash, then like the other person would be like, quote unquote in your army, and then you could like go around and collect other people and they would join your army, and then you could like fight somebody else's Zetsu army or something like that, right? Like, that would be fun. That's what reminded me of it. Sigh. Anyway. So let me see here. Dr. Strangle said, in a real debate, you would weigh the evidence even if the person isn't there, and even with them not being on the other side doesn't establish their position as the other person would win, or it would come out to be inconclusive. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I wish things would go that way more often. Can I see a debate anywhere, you versus Noodles? Asked Roman. No, unfortunately, it was... So, the backstory here is, basically, I left a comment on one of his videos saying, or like he made a community post or something, and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna debate somebody else now. What kind of thing do you want me to debate? Tell me what you want me to do." And I said something like, I love your shit, man. I am excited to see your next debate, whatever it is. Just please do me a favor, like take a break every once in a while in the debate and like look stuff up, because you and Swai got into some shit like an hour and a half on fucking the Ross and Shuriken or whatever, and you could have cleared it up by just like looking up the Databook statements or whatever. So I'll be there for whatever you do, man. Big supporter, but just please, like, don't fight so much. Just like look stuff up. And what's his name? He said, why would I need to like look anything up? What are you talking about? And I said, well, like you made this statement that like Jiraiya killed 5 paths of pain. He said, well, he did, or 4 to 5 paths anyway. I said, no, he really didn't. And he said something along the lines of like, get into VC, you rat pussy boy bitch fuck. And so I did. And really what I was trying to do was just clear up like the Waterfang bullet and the Jiraiya 5 paths of pain thing. I was using those 2 points to say like, hey, sometimes in debates things go off the rails because people like get too caught up on little details, and they're relatively easy to clear up. So that was my goal. That was my win condition, was just to be like, hey, can we agree that things would go more smoothly if people looked stuff up? And I wasn't even there to like rep Swag Kage, right? Like, because I have issues with some of his arguments too. It was just a general thing. But it became, I think it was like 5 hours it went on. It went on like for fucking forever. And the debate was, did Jiraiya kill 4 to 5 paths of pain, ostensibly? And when I went in there to the Discord, I didn't intend for it to be a debate. I wasn't planning for it to debate. It wasn't scheduled. I didn't know I was debating. But at like, we tried to talk for like a half an hour or so, and after a half an hour, it was just like we were talking over each other, and it was getting heated. And so I was like, is there anybody here who can mod, who can just give us a talking stick or something? And that's when it became a debate, right? And so then we talked for about 5 hours about whether or not Jiraiya killed 5 paths of pain, which in retrospect is fucking wild, because that is a question that you can clear up in 5 minutes, not 5 hours. It was fucking insane. It was a lot of fun for what it was. It's just like he got like super heated, and like he kicked me out. He called me like an F slur and a retard and stuff like that. He was just he did not have fun with it, apparently. So we don't get along. I tried to communicate with him since then. It just doesn't work out. We don't get along. Whatever. Oh yeah, if I haven't missed you already yet, Darth Magog, thank you so much for stopping by. Appreciate you, and I hope you have a great weekend, and enjoy the filming. Yeah, sorry, if you want to go ahead and send that link out, that'd be awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. No, oh yeah, no, it wasn't for it wasn't for history class. It was just like a thing that the school did once a year. I think, now that I'm thinking about it, I think you're right. It was a bachelor auction, but like that was what the staff called it. What the faculty called it. It was a bachelor auction, but then the kids themselves said like, hey, you are my slave now. You need to go and go pick up my trash. It was toxic as fuck. Like we should not have been fucking doing that. Get NBC for saying this thing that's blatantly on the page is wrong with me, Crisis. Yeah, I mean, like, I think from his perspective, I was just like coming across as somebody who was like criticizing him and like saying you need to debate better and blah blah blah. Like, I don't know, that wasn't my intention, but I don't know how I come across, on the receiving end. Sometimes I do go find like old comments that I've left. Like I was looking at a comment I left like a year ago on one of Six's videos, and I was just reading the comment randomly. I was like, damn, who's this asshole? He's being so, oh wait, that's me. So like, if I'm in a mood, I can be a little spicy, I guess, but I don't think it did anything to warrant like a slur and a ban, but okay. Whatever. It's Naruto. Meanwhile, oh, I'm sorry, I missed you. You said some nice things. I apologize, I missed that. Ryoman says, I think you'd have a good chance of beating him because Noodles sometimes is carried by the fact that his opponents aren't as creative or versatile with their methods of inverse scaling, so he catches them off guard. Meanwhile, you have a lot of knowledge and experience on that, and even on Noodles specifically as well. So I'll just say this. Honestly, I don't know if I could beat him, because I'm not a debater, and I don't like have good skills when it comes to debating. Sage and I get along as people. Sage is thick calves, but the times that I've tried to debate him, I wasn't really able to keep an argument going, because I don't like being like aggressive. I don't like interrupting people. I don't even really like trying to change people's minds, really, if they have a belief that feels like genuine and important to them. So even when we did have like disagreements, I didn't even really get that deep into them, because within a few minutes I was like, oh, he's not so bad. Like, I don't have that dog in me, to kind of go for it. And with Noodles, I think honestly, and just being totally honest, like I think I would probably get like a little flustered with the how heated things get. I don't, I don't train, I don't like practice tactics in a debate, right? So I would be there for the purpose of trying to be like, hey, you have a perspective on this thing, I have a perspective on this thing. Let's try to reconcile and let's try to figure it out together. I in everything I've seen, I'd be love to be proven wrong. In everything I've seen, he doesn't seem to have a single iota of motivation towards reconciling differences or achieving consensus. Like I don't know if he doesn't know how, if he doesn't care, whatever. He doesn't seem motivated by that. So I think he would be there to achieve a victory. I would be there to try and achieve consensus, and it would just go nowhere. But I appreciate the vote of confidence. I appreciate the it's a nice sentiment what you're saying, and I appreciate it. I do try to learn from the debates. I do try to learn the stuff, and I'm very passionate and eager to talk about it. And to be honest, it was pretty disappointing the way that conversation went, because in my head I was a little bit of a fanboy, right? Like I'll be honest, like Swag Kage and Noodles, when I first discovered their debates, I was like, oh my god, people are debating about Naruto. This is so cool. I got a chance to talk with them. This is fucking awesome. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, basically. You know what I mean? It was just like, I thought that we were all did you see that that I don't know if you know Josh Johnson, but that Josh Johnson bit about Drake versus Kendrick, and it's like, I thought we were rhyming, guys. I thought we were rhyming. I thought we were doing mangas, guys. I didn't realize I was descending into the fucking Thunderdome. But whatever. I learned stuff, so it's fine. Or you could try to judge how the debate went up to that point, but that's not always fair. Oh, wait a minute. I don't remember how Noodles vs. Apollo ended, says Ryoman, but you may be right. But I wouldn't say leaving Doing to be perm-abused equals losing. In that case, it would be inconclusive, but depends. Or you could try to judge how the debate went up to that point, but that's not always fair. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, like, I have my own feelings about it. It could be that I'm being unfair. That's not my intention, but I guess if I'm trying to be as fair as possible and trying to remove my personal bias, I think it's tough to know when to leave a situation where you feel like you're being like treated unfairly, because you're going into somebody else's server and you agree to the rules, like, okay, the debate will go for this long and then there'll be conclusions and whatever else, right? You agree to the rules under a certain assumption, under certain terms. And if there's a double standard where the other people don't follow the rules, but they expect you to, well, then that's unfair. And then if you leave and they want to say, oh, you lost because you left early, well, then it's like, okay, but the rules are kind of like, it doesn't matter because you invalidated the whole premise of the thing by not sticking, by having like your own double standard, if that makes sense, by not being fair. So if I went to a place and I was in that position where I was like, okay, we're going to take, we might talk over each other a little bit, where we're going to give each other a chance to talk, and then I felt like I was constantly getting muted and I felt like it was unfair, then I probably wouldn't just stick around and be like, oh yeah, keep doing that to me until you're done, right? Like, I'd probably get pissed, and I would say goodbye. I would say no thank you. I would like make a statement and leave. I wouldn't just rage quit, or like mic drop rather, but I wouldn't stick around indefinitely. I have my limits. So I get that, but it's everything leading up to that. Like, there was genuine hostility from what I remember that then culminated in that. And so I don't think, it's also just like, you put yourself in, for the purposes of a debate, you put yourself in a disadvantageous position when you leave. Technically speaking, if the debate hasn't concluded, then the other person is free to continue making whatever arguments they want. And if you're not there to hear or debunk them, then you have no say as to whether or not they're valid. And I guess it just makes everything feel kind of uncomfortable. Or doesn't really go anywhere. If I were judging, I would probably, I don't know. I would be inclined to say that Noodles forfeited, but I wouldn't like, I wouldn't feel like I would be giving Apollo a trophy either. You know, I would maybe try to declare it a no contest or whatever the term for that is, right? Like a mistrial, you know. Um, but also you have to anyway. Getting off topic, but yeah. um, yeah, and it's okay. It's okay if we we disagree about it too. Dr. Strangle says, I remember watching a debate between Noodle and some actual philosophy guy, and man, it was like a child fighting a pro MMA athlete. Do you remember what that was? Was it Ask Yourself? Was it that guy? I'd be curious. Let's see. Darth Mego, this is for history class. Blah, blah, blah. Fictional debaters are smarter than philosophy debaters. They can be. I said an actual philosophy guy. Most philosophy debaters, also known as Phil Bros, are terrible and just doing dishonest work. Oh yeah, that's fair. Get in VC for saying this thing. We tried about that. Debate me. Oh, with Crisis. Oh, I thought you meant like Crisis in general. Crisis is a person. When he tried to debate me on Zelda knowledge, he was blatantly wrong on. I'm the same way. I don't care to debate characters because yeah, exactly. I would much rather just like try and like resolve differences. And the thing is that like not just Noodles but debaters like him as well are like, I think if you were to ask them on their own if they believe some of the stuff that they say, I think it would be insulting for me to say that like Noodles believes everything that he argues to be actually true, because it's like the shit that he says is just like so goddamn ridiculous. Like it would be insulting for me to say that he actually believes that Jiraiya killed 5 paths of pain. Like if he literally believes that, because you'd have to be so fucking checked out and so oblivious to what the fuck is happening during that fight that there'd be like, something wrong with you. Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but like if you actually believe that that's what happened, you just like didn't pay attention, because you're just like in headcanon territory. There's no way to get to that conclusion having actually paid attention during that fight. So I would much rather say that like, to me, it's much kinder to say, like, okay, this is just debate tactics or whatever, just being stubborn, than a genuine belief in something that is so completely fucking divorced from reality. But I can't, like, it's really hard to talk to people like that because they first have to be willing to meet you in the middle and actually have a real discussion. And I think if you just practice competitive debating and you get really good at that, which he obviously has some skill at that, I suppose, then that can kind of take over and make it harder for you to like communicate like a human being, you know? So anyway, Rioman says, I know what you mean. I sometimes feel a bit generous towards people whenever they chill off, which nerves my arguments because I don't want to pressure them too much. Yeah, exactly, right? Like it's easier to go, I guess, like balls to the wall if you feel like, you know, you don't want to like put somebody down if they have like a genuine nice belief in something just because they disagree with you, right? Even if you think you're right, you don't necessarily want to make them feel stupid or anything like that. And on the other hand, like maybe they're actually right, and you should be humble and you should be willing to hear them out, you know? That's why I prefer the debate is full of insults and I have nothing to motivate myself with. Or that's the other side too. I think that like the debating sphere can be cathartic for a lot of people because it's sort of like I liken it to a fight club or something like that, where everybody just agrees, okay, we're all going to enter into this space and just fucking vent on each other. And the Naruto, you know, thing itself, the manga itself, is not even the point. Like, it's just an excuse to get an argument going and start yelling. And sometimes people need that. Like, I've kind of come around on this a little bit. Like, sometimes people need a space that's relatively safe to just fucking let loose. And if, as long as everybody's on the same page and consents and agrees, then, you know, like, I'm not here to kink shame, right? If that's what does it for you, then that's great. But I think there's a risk to it that, like, people coming into the community that don't have that context get caught up in it. That's what happened to me, you know, and, like, not everybody understands that that's what's happening. There's not, like, you know, I didn't get a fucking memo that's like, hey, you are about to enter, like, Clusterfuck Alley. Are you sure you want to do this? Right? No, it's just, like, it bleeds out into other parts. It leads to harassment. It leads to, like, I mean, fucking Jay the Great and Noodles were going to box each other. And it's just like, come the fuck on, guys. So, I don't know, man. It can very quickly become, like, take on a life of its own. And move away from the topic itself. And when it's done in such a public space, when it's done with such a wide audience, that does have an impact on other people. It does affect other people. It sends a message that is not kind and is not good, and it sucks. And if that does it for you and it makes your life better and it helps you connect with people, that's great. I don't get it. I don't want to participate in that. And like, I would wish that if I could change anything about the community overall, it wouldn't be to say like, hey, nobody gets to yell at each other, nobody gets to be mean, everybody has to be nice all the time. But it would be like, if you're going to act like that, if you're going to do shit like that, make sure that everybody participating wants to be there, is in on the joke, and actually enjoys it, and isn't getting like fucking slapped around. Let's not like fetishize weird cyberbullying. Fucking weird. Anyway. Let's see. Dr. Strangle says, I like it when these types of debaters are talking about call me bad at debate, as it would be more of an indictment if they consider me good in their standards. Yeah, exactly. It's like actually a compliment. Like, you're not stooping to our level. How dare you? No, thank you. Please continue with the nice nice words there. Dr. Strangle, I thought we were rhyming, is why I think 616 in LA is such an underrated part of that beat. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's a great track. It doesn't get as much play as like, Not Like Us, of course, or even Meet the Grams, but it has its place in the roster. I still think Euphoria is my favorite part of that whole beef. Just like the whole fucking arc that song goes through, the 3 beat switches, and the tone that it starts with and how it ramps up. And I can't really say that I'm a fan of Kendrick. I mean, like, he did tell a child publicly in front of the world that he hates his dad so much he wished that child had never been born. So it's kind of, I know it's art, but it's like kind of hard for me to like be a supporter per se. But just in terms of overall lyricism and musicality and like song construction, holy shit, that song is a fucking journey, man. And I definitely gave it a lot of play in the heyday of when all that shit was going down. That's the one I reach to if I want to go back and like experience part of the beef. But yeah, that Josh Johnson video, I think it's literally like Kendrick versus Drake explained for white people. That's like a 40-minute stand-up comedy video. It's fucking amazing. I love that shit. They don't. They'll say it outright that I don't have to believe it to win. Like, what are you talking about then? Well, yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, so to play devil's advocate, sometimes it can be fun to engage in devil's advocate arguments, right? Because sometimes, like, actually, it's kind of a fun video. I think Swag and Six did this like a million years ago. Swag versus Six random debates. I think it was this video where they're both like on Discord or something, and they have like a random wheel that's generating. Yeah, maybe it's this one. Maybe it's either this one or this one. I forget. This one I think is like the edited one, and then this one is the like live streamed one. But anyway, one of those videos there. They have this thing where it's like they randomly generate characters and topics for them to debate against, and they try to come up with the best arguments that they possibly can. And you can tell when they don't actually believe what they're saying, but their job for the purposes of that debate, of that scene, of the challenge rather, is to try to come up with something that works, something that sticks. And if they can, then they win the point, and if not, then they move on to do something else. And that was actually kind of fun. And I think maybe that's part of that sort of thing makes me sympathize with the overall, like, let's win this debate at any cost kind of thing. Like, I understand the challenge of it and the intellectual, like, yeah, the intellectual challenge, like the puzzle of it. It's fun. Like, if you told me, okay, your job here is to convince me that Sakura could beat Neji, how the fuck am I going to do that? Like, I mean, part one. That is going to be very, very difficult for me to do, but what a cool little thought experiment, right? If I can actually pull that off somehow, that would be fucking hilarious. So the Noodles versus whoever it was, V1 Batman V1, I think, Choji versus Gamabunta. What a fucking cool premise for a debate. Whatever I might say about the arguments that were made and how the debate went, what a cool idea for a debate. How the fuck are you going to get Choji to Gamabunta level? That's fucking hilarious. I love that. I want more of this. I would almost like commission more debates like that because I want those topics to come out, and I don't hear people coming up with that shit anymore. That being said, if your arguments are, I'm going to lie about this, I'm going to misrepresent that, and then I'm going to call you a fuckhead, well, you haven't really done your job. You've just wasted everybody's time. In an entertaining way, you know, maybe you got people thinking, maybe they got something out of it, but like, yeah, it's not good enough. Yeah. And at that point, once you get to the fuckhead part, maybe you take a step back and be like, I got nothing. It's okay. It's actually okay to say that you can't win something. It's actually okay to be like, you know what? I would rather just not lie than lie. Believe it or not. It's like a really spicy thing to say for whatever reason, but I never attack anyone who didn't deserve it. Now the question is, who deserves it in my morality system? Yeah, it's a good question. I don't even act like a typical power scaling debater to someone who's clearly not too experienced or doesn't talk that way. Well, that's nice. Do you have a debate that you'd like to share? Like, I don't know if like you're comfortable sharing. No pressure, no judgment or anything. But if you'd like me to listen to one of your debates, I'd be happy to. Be curious to hear your perspective. And again, like on this stream especially, even if we disagree about something, unless you're like actively harassing and like being homophobic and being awful to somebody, we can disagree about anything, man. Like I'm not gonna ever like come after you for a disagreement in a belief. I might disagree and we can try to work it out, but it's, you know, I'm not gonna judge you for it or anything. Just so you know. Dr. Strangle says, I don't remember who he debated right now, but I remember Noodles having a Cope intro to the video where he assures his fans he won this debate. Isn't that every video? And the philosophy guy at the end of schooling says, like, well, if you change your position to X, meaning X instead of meaning Y, then by technicality you can say your position is correct. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that happened in the Weeaboo Warrior debate. And this is the thing. This is the thing, right? Like, I don't know how I would get out of this, right? And this is why I say that, like, I don't know if I would win a debate. I don't know how I would have dealt with this. But when Noodles was talking to Weeaboo Warrior about Kakuzu versus Pain, Weeaboo Warrior, I think, was looking at the Predapath Jutsu description. Hang on. There's a fourth data book, yeah? What the fuck is it? Is it, Ningendo? Yeah, Ningendo. Right, isn't it like... The hand guides a soul that ascends to paradise, person's hand, when the hands... Yeah, okay, so this line here, right? So, Weeaboo was arguing for Pain, Noodles arguing for Kakuzu. And, this is the human path ability that the, human path has, and that Nagato himself has. And if you don't remember, it's like when you touch somebody, you can rip out their soul. That's what Nagato does to Naruto. But also there's another component to it where if you touch somebody on the head, you can paralyze them, read their mind, and then rip out their soul by like raising up from their head, which is what happens to Shizune and then some other random ninja in the beginning of the Pain Assault on Konoha. Okay. So, Weeaboo Warrior said, even if the victim tries to resist, the opponent's information is deciphered, a power that is almost a divine miracle. And the end comes when the memories are read in instant death. Now, of course, we can apply the skepticism filter to this, just like we did on the other stuff. Get the toe trimming shit out of here. Oh my god. I need to like get a membership to the site or something to kill those ads. But anyway, opponent's information is deciphered, a power that's almost a divine miracle. Yeah. So the argument that Weeaboo made was that if the human path could manage to make contact with Kakuzu, he would just rip his soul out because it's an instant death, and if he tries to resist, there's nothing he can do. So it's unresistible and an instant death. I would say, you know, personally, that if I were in Noodle's position, I would argue that like instant death is proven false, and the tries to resist thing is proven false by the fact that Naruto could resist it, maybe, but you can go back and forth on that point. But what Noodles said was that, like, even if the victim tries to resist, well, Shizune was a victim, but of course this would be effective on her because she's a victim. Kakuzu is not a victim, therefore this wouldn't work on him. And like, I don't know how to explain just like how completely fucking ludicrous that is, but like the like how to phrase it exactly. I understand viscerally that that's dumb, but I don't know how to put it into words correctly. My attempt would be something like, victim means the person who is the subject of the attack, regardless of whether or not it's effective, right? Like, if you are the victim of slander or you are the victim of a gunshot or something like that, you can survive the gunshot and you can be unaffected by the slander, but you are still the target of it, and you're attacked by it, and therefore you're the victim. It kind of means like the subject, like I said. And so, yeah, the victim is whoever Pain is targeting, and therefore Kakuzu would be a victim by definition and would be vulnerable to this. That's what I would say. I don't know if and I think Weeaboo like called that out. He's like, you're playing word games or something like that. But what Noodles tried to do is he tried to say, well, the term victim only refers to people who get victimized. And since Kakuzu wouldn't get victimized, then he wouldn't by definition be a victim. And then also this other like, using the term victim as derogatory, is like a slur. Like, Shizune's a victim, like Shizune's a bitch, but Kakuzu's not a bitch, so he wouldn't get hurt by the bitch removal technique, you know? It's like fucking it was actually really funny. But yeah. Ryoman says, wasn't Choji versus Gamabunta Noodles? Yeah, I said Noodles versus V1 Batman V1. I is it supposed to be like Vi Batman Vi? I thought it was V1 Batman V1. But oh no, you're right. It's not V1, is it? It's just VI. VI Batman VI, not D1. Okay. So that's why you thought I said D1, because I said V1. Okay. VI Batman VI. Yeah. Just say Batman. People probably recognize that. As long as we're not saying Vitamin Man. Anyway. Let's see. Sorry, says, see, that I understand. What I don't understand is why you would make videos giving blatantly false information, knowing people will take your word as law because you have a big number under your name. Clout, popularity, supporting. Well, I mean, like, I don't want to speak for other people, but I can say that like Noodles said in one of his swag debates, like in the Itachi versus Pain, I think, that like fucking he made some of his older videos specifically to get people to come debate him, right? Like, there's some people whose presence on YouTube is more of like a public face for their debate persona, and their debate is their real quote-unquote career. Like, the thing that really motivates them, that really excites them, that they have the more fun with, and maybe they even make the more profit off of, is the debating per se, not so much the not so much the YouTube videos. So that's almost accessory, but I don't know. Dr. Strangle says, and Noodles does that, and they no longer have a disagreement, and Noodle totally took that as a win. Yeah, of course. When I was on his server, he had like a 300, like a thing above his name that said like 300-0, and I think that was his victory to loss ratio. I know he had like a short video that he did that said 257-0. He claims to have debated 300 times on Kakuzu versus Pain and won them all. Which, I mean, he lost to Swaikage the first time. He lost to 6. As far as I'm concerned, he lost to me. I'm going to claim that one. And he lost, in my opinion anyway, he lost to Apollo versus... he lost versus Apollo. So, at this point, if that number doesn't have at least a 2 or a 3, let alone a 4 after it, then that's cap. And something ain't right. But that's just, like, my opinion, man. Roman says, I don't voice chat debate. I prefer text massively due to multiple reasons. That's fair. Honestly, I do too. Like, when I think text gives me more time to do research and fact check myself and like keep tempers cool. So I prefer to do text if it's going to be like a debate as opposed to a, just like a friendly discussion. If it's among friends, then like VC is nice because you can just hop on and have a friendly disagreement. But if it's a longer, like more adverse thing or whatever, like a adversarial thing, then yeah. The tech debate on my channel topic was Madara versus Goku. I was on Madara's side. Interesting. That's cool. What part of the story Goku? Like Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan 2 or 3, or I guess we don't really see him in 2 very much, huh? But like Super Saiyan 3, like Super. Dr. Strangle says that's called sophistry and is generally looked down upon the side of the fiction debate community. Ad block cough cough. Yeah, yeah, I should probably get one. Riemann says, for example, in tech, it's much easier to verify the validity of previous claims. You can just scroll up and tag the message. Oh, Dragon Ball Super Goku. Interesting. I think that would be pretty spicy, honestly. Damn, okay, Prime as well? Okay. I'd be curious to hear that. So it's getting late. We've been going for 3.5 hours-ish. So, and you can probably tell my voice is starting to flag a little bit. So let me wrap up real quick here. Of course, keep the conversation going if you like. But basically, I think we kind of covered what I wanted to cover for today, which was just to lay the groundwork for talking about the rest of the arguments next time. Next time is going to be like the actual going through the light speed arguments one by one. Today, I really just wanted to explain why I don't think the databooks should be taken at face value and why you should be skeptical towards them. So rather than go through every single one of these, because really the ones that are most important are these, and we'll go through them in a lot of detail next time. So I will just leave these as general things for people to look into if you are curious about learning more about the topic. Yeah, sure thing, Realman. Let me do this right now before I forget. I'm going to send you an invite. I can remember how to do it. Oh, it might not be... Oh, invite. No, shit. Fuck. 1 second, sorry. Invite people. Is it just the same name? Rioman. 1 sec. Rioman, you got me. Oh, I gotta ask you. Fuck. I'm getting to that point where I can't even talk right anymore. Rioman. Yagami. Okay, I sent you a friend request and... Wait. Oh, sorry, are you trying to post a link? It's not, it's nothing is showing up in YouTube chat. 1 second, how do I even do this? I'm such a noob when it comes to, like, Discord stuff, so let me see. Invite people. Use copy button. Copy. Okay. Did that go through? Yep. Feel free to use that link to join up. I will post it in the channel description as well. Sorry about that. I don't know what the... It just, like, YouTube... It didn't even show up in my, like, secondary, like, backup chat. YouTube literally just, like, did not allow the URL to go through at all. Sorry about that. Saria says, unfortunately for Madara, Akira Toriyama said Goku is the coolest and strongest guy and will always win. Well, it's verbatim stated in a canon source, so there's no way to dispute it, right? Dr. Strangle said, just off likelihood that the higher that the 300 over 0 gets, the more likely it becomes that it's dishonesty or delusion, like every single time. Yep. Besides, I mean, you know, you can't divide. You can't divide by 0, so, I mean, he's also failing at math. It's stupid, I'm sorry. But anyway, yeah, so to kind of wrap things up here, that was my goal for tonight, is just to kind of lay the groundwork for understanding the data books as we go forward. Next time we're going to talk about these jutsu specifically, because these are sort of the key aspects of the scaling, and then we're also going to talk about heavenly transfer. That being said, please take the time, if you are interested in this topic, to go to Narutoversity and go through some other jutsu descriptions if you want to have some more examples of things that are maybe a little bit hyperbolic, examples of stuff that I'm talking about. Toad Mouth Bind, we talked about. Prison Sand Burial, Heaven Foot, we talked about that. Shadow of the Dancing Leaf, I think this has a statement that it's unavoidable. Blade of Wind, unavoidable. Great Fireball, we talked about. Sand Binding Coffin, inescapable as well. Extreme Decapitating Airwaves, I think this is another one of Temari's jutsu. So she actually has two universal statements. There's another one. Great Waterfall is supposedly inescapable, unavoidable. Temple of Nirvana is the name of the jutsu that Kabuto uses, and it's like you see feathers appear in the air and fucking people like faint and pass out. And Sakura, let's just look at that one really quick because it's kind of funny. What? Is it in the first Databook, really? Yeah, okay. So A rank, Kabuto. A genjutsu that generates a fluttering rain of sleep-inducing illusory white feathers. Whoever sees them as they fall, piling up and covering the whole target area, will experience Eden-like bliss and fall into a state of tranquil slumber. No matter how much one resists the hypnotic spell, the desire to sleep is instinctive, and there's no fighting it. The instant the white feathers go, an irresistible sleep comes with everything, and the irresistible sleep comes with everything. Okay, and the victims end up falling asleep. And then the other one that I wanted to look at, one last one, is, no, what the hell? Octopus. Hold. What the hell? Okay, what? Why wasn't it accepting Octopus? What the fuck? Chrome. This is Killer Bee's ability that he uses on the Edo Jinchuriki. Sealing technique, Octopus Hold. Members get laid before the final moments. It is impossible to escape this torture technique. So I'll just leave it there because what a wonderful what a wonderful way to end the stream on a wholesome note. Killer Bee uses a technique, and the people that get affected by the technique get laid before their final moments, and it's impossible to escape from getting laid. And it's used for large-scale military operations. And it's moving under these circumstances is impossible. Of course, they get out of it. They do get out, right? And of course, Sakura sees the white feathers coming, and she breaks free of it. And so does Shikamaru. And Shikamaru has not exactly been like touted up as being this great genjutsu master or whatever, but he sees the technique happening and he goes and hides and he gets away from it. So again, like, it's not just one or two statements. It's not just like a couple of exceptions. Categorically, like across the board, Databook statements can be really sketchy, and you need to look into that. Is a general rule. I'm not calling anybody out specifically. But finally, in the third Databook, here's a bunch of stuff. Feel free to pause this and take a look at this. A lot of these are also in my Itachi versus Pain video. The very first section, the first 10 minutes are going over some of these. Same thing with the fourth Databook. A lot of these are, again, just like... Actually, no, I'll save that for next time. The Storm of These Light Fangs, save that for next time. But yeah. So that's it. Hope you guys had fun with that. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope this was helpful in establishing some of the basics for the next time. Next time that will be next Saturday at 6 p.m. And we're just going to talk about the Heavenly Transfer and Ethereal Transmission first. And then we'll go through the other arguments. And hopefully we'll get to the end and we'll be basically done with this topic. But we might do a third like bonus round where we talk about like the movies and books, if there's any other like random supplementary material. We might not get through everything, especially if I take an hour to tell you about like my creepy high school and stuff and complain about noodles again. But that's fun. I appreciate the conversation. I'll catch up on chat real quick. Sorry, it says hooray. Good. Octopus is not acceptable. Yeah, I don't know why. It's impossible not to get laid. Yeah, looks like a job for me, exactly. Hopefully he leaves Akamaru at home. Yeah. But thank you so much. It's been a really delightful conversation with everybody. I appreciate the engagement. I appreciate the back and forth. I hope you've learned something. As always, please feel free to leave me a question, comment, concern, whatever in the comment section. And if you have any ideas for future topics that you want me to cover, please let me know. We're going to be talking about Kaguya in a few weeks. We're going to be talking about Naruto versus Pain and going through that whole fight at some point. And I'm more than happy to consider other topics for after that. Claire Obscure will be coming back on Thursday night at 7 p.m. I think I'll be done with overtime by then, so hopefully it'll be a little bit more coherent. But yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much, and have a